Hey everybody, this is a compilation of pointless top 10s that are weird, odd, or unusual, so enjoy. Hello everybody and welcome back to another episode of Pointless Top 10, a show where we make top 10 lists out of pointless things, where we fly and buy this pointless statue in Booty Bay, because inside pointless things are treasure. Let's begin. 10. Number 10 are the Blood Venom Slime Slaves, and these can be found at Blood Venom Post in Fellwood, and these were former inhabitants and guards of the post that were mutated by the experiments of Winna Hazard, and so you can go here in Classic WoW and see all the people at Blood Venom Post without slimes on their head, and Winna Hazard is actually the one in Classic WoW that gave you the quest to turn her kitten into a corrupted cat by giving it some flasks, so she's the one responsible for all of the slime slaves currently just wandering about the forest. And strangely enough, according to Wowpedia, while the inhabitants of the original pre-Cataclysm Blood Venom Post were many different races, the slime slaves seem to only be Tauren. So I don't know why the slimes only picked Tauren, or like maybe everybody else fled or they died. Who knows? But when I saw these slime slaves, I was like, dude, what is happening? It's such a weird mob to see in World of Warcraft, and so that's why I had to put it at number 10. 9. Number 9 is a soot-stained enforcer, and he is an ogre that is just doing sit-ups. And I remember when I first saw this, I was like, wait, what? Is he just doing sit-ups? And it turns out, yeah, he's just doing sit-ups. Now, I do think it's funny, he's just kind of doing the dance animation, but they like laid him down, so it looks like he's doing sit-ups. So I think they just had a fun time with, you know, development being like, it's kind of like he's doing sit-ups. Let's just put that in the game. And he'll be saying a bunch of random quotes like, what after one? Another one. This harder than I thinked. How many's tree? And there's also an ogre that just like walks over here and he's just like, yeah, he's still doing sit-ups. I even thought it was funny, if you look up the soot-stained enforcers on Wowpedia, it just says, enforcers are ogres located at the soot-stained mining camp in Frostfire Ridge. One of them is doing sit-ups. And so, not only is it pretty funny, but it made me be like, what? What is happening? And so that's why the soot-stained enforcer is number 9. 8. Number 8 is Jerome, and Jerome is a blood elf that hangs outside of Silvermoon City in Eversong Woods, and I remember first seeing this guy way back when, and I was like, what is happening here? Because you talk to him, and he says, finally, someone came down to talk to me. Want to hear some of my rhymes? And you can either say no, or you can say yes, in which he says, walking down the street, looking at my feet, watching the leaves fall off of the trees. And it just feels like the ramblings of a madman. It's just like, what is happening here? Who is this? And so it turns out this is actually a reference to Blizzard developers. So Brian Morris Rowe is the lead interior artist for Blizzard, and his employee Jeremy Graves is a Dungeon City artist. At least they used to be. The reason for the rhymes is due to Jeremy having a knack for karaoke, rapping to the beats of popular rappers such as Snoop Dogg, Dr. Dre, and Eminem, and worker Morris Rowe is a blood elf in Silvermoon City trying to rebuild it, and he is with the Silvermoon Builders Association, and Jerome is his minion. So this is all just a reference to Brian Morris Rowe, who was the lead interior artist, and then his employee, who is essentially Jerome in the game. But either way, when I first saw this, I was just confused, and I was like, what? And so that's why it's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Niden, and Niden is a sea giant located in the Coral Forest in Nazjatar. And I remember first seeing Niden, and I didn't know what he was doing. I thought he was just like stirring some soup or something, and then I realized he's got this mortar and pestle, and really the mortar and pestle are just like big shells, which I think is pretty funny. But you can talk to him, and he says, Niden likes to smash things. Niden gets to do the things he likes now. And so really, he's just helping to make kelpberry wine. And later on, you say, could you please do some smashing for the kelpberry wine quest? And he says, friend leave berries, take cask, smashing is good, you should try it. And so I didn't even realize this until I looked it up, but his name is actually a reference to kneading, like when you knead dough. And I don't know why, because it seems like the definition of kneading is to work into dough or paste with hands, and he's kind of using a mortar and pestle, so I feel like he's not really kneading anything, so I don't know why they didn't go with something else. Like, they should have named him Morpest for mortar and pestle. Morpest. There you go, that's his new name, Morpest. But anyway, I didn't expect to stumble upon this guy, and when I did, I was like, what's going on? And so that's why Morpest is number 7. 6. Number 6 is Naked Millhouse Manastorm. That's right, Naked Millhouse Manastorm, and he's located in Dornegal in the new big city of War Within, and he's kind of in these hidden tunnels in this weird underground cave, and you open a door and it leads to this weird Hearthstone reference tavern with bartender Bob from Hearthstone Battlegrounds, and Valera is playing against Millhouse, and there's some other characters around. And if you talk to Millhouse, he's just like, I don't want to talk about it. But if you talk to Valera, she has a quest, and she explains that she has taken Millhouse for all he's worth, so she's pretty much won all of his clothes, he's lost all of his money, and she ends up offering you the spell Tome of Polymorph Moss Wool. So it's a way to get a new polymorph as a mage. And I actually read an interesting comment on Wowhead that mentions that Millhouse Mana Storm has been in every WoW expansion except Wrath of the Lich King. And so he kind of just keeps returning as a running gag character. And out of all the appearances, I think Naked Millhouse Mana Storm might be one of the weirdest. And so that's why he's number 6. 5. Number 5 is Chemos, and Chemos is a steward located in Heroes Rest in Bastion. And Chemos actually changed a bit since I wanted to record him, but previously he used to just have his hammer, and so you would see him sweeping with his hammer, and you were like, wait, what is he doing? He's just sweeping with a hammer? And it was really funny. But now they've given him a broom, but he still has his hammer. So now he's actually doing work with the broom, but he still has his hammer, like, just engraved into this thing. So I don't know if the hammer is actually part of the broom now, or he's just made a broom out of the hammer. Maybe he just glued like 2 sticks on top of that. I have no idea, but it's still pretty funny. But you are able to select Chemos as your steward of Heroes Rest, and a lot of people selected him just because he was sweeping with a hammer, and I couldn't even find him for a while. It turns out I had to like do a bunch of quests, and it was dumb. I had to go back to Shadowlands. Let me tell you, it was not a great experience, but we found him, we figured it out, and that's why Chemos is number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Human Seedlings, and the Human Seedlings are the unfortunate survivors of the Hillsbred Fields who are now buried in the Sludge Fields. And there's a quest called Do the Right Thing, and it says, you have come upon a horrific scene. Someone or something has buried all of the humans up to their necks in a manner consistent with planting. The ghouls, which are seemingly tending the field to human seedlings, periodically jump to the nearest human and devour its head. You can end this right here and now. Take this shovel and save the humans. And so you can go up to the human heads and you either bash their head in with a shovel or pull them out of the dirt. And this is definitely one of the things that you see for the first time, and you're just like, dude, what is going on here? There are literal human heads like planted in the ground. I guess the humans are planted and the head is like they're sprouting in a way, but this is just such a weird quest. You know what I mean? I was going to put this in creepy things in World of Warcraft. I still might when I do the creepy things for Halloween, but I think the human seedlings have definitely earned their spot at number 4. 3. Number 3 are the Leper Gnome Laborers, and these are leper gnomes located in the Sanctum in Silvermoon City that are being forced to work by Serignano. I think that's how you say her name, Serignano, who is a succubus that essentially overlooks the entire sweatshop operation that's going on here. And funnily enough, this place is called Colleen's Trustworthy Tailoring Shop, and any place that calls themselves trustworthy is instantly untrustworthy. And by the way, Keelan's name is Keelan Sheets, which I think is a reference to clean sheets, if I had to take a wild guess. But yeah, this place is actually insane. Like, the succubus is just going up and whipping the gnomes. There's like leper gnomes in cages. They have a bunch of money and gold on the table to show that they're clearly profiting off the sweatshop work of the leper gnomes. And it's just crazy. This is not something you expect to find, I'll tell you that much. And so that's why the leper gnome laborers are number 3. 2. Number 2 is Marcus the Paladin, and Marcus the Paladin is found leaving the tent with a sleeping Tauren couple in it named Tanda Freeseeker and Bax Freeseeker, and as he's walking out, he says, well, that was certainly unexpected. And there's also a steamy chest on the ground of the tent next to the sleeping Tauren couple. And so putting all the puzzle pieces together here, it seems like the Paladin and the Tauren couple did some stuff, all right? That's all I'm gonna say. But it turns out that Marcus is actually the main character of the erotic steamy romance novel series, and Marcus has had flings with the human mage Nani, the Forsaken rogue Atusa, the gnome warlock Tavi, and the Draenei Sula. And so if you want to go find any of these stories, they're all in game and they're all a part of a steamy romance novel. So if you just look up a steamy romance novel, you can probably go find all the locations, and the one for this specific scenario with the Tauren is called Got Milk. And so that reason alone alone definitely puts this at number 2. And number 1 is Jogu the Drunk, and Jogu the Drunk is a Jinyu and a member of the Tillers, but despite his near constant inebriation, he is a value member of the Tillers due to his ability to predict what crops will grow best on any given day. And when I first saw Jinyu back in the day, I was like, dude, it's just a drunk fish guy walking around and you have to buy him alcohol to help your crops grow. Like, this is this is such a weird character. Like, what's going on? But if you go around the town and talk to some people like Water Taster Cruishell, they say, our brother over there drowns his sorrows in apathy and wine instead of work and toil. Jogu's from a different tribe than us. He came far from the north and will not speak much of what led him here. And in a quest, A Gift for Jogu, Andy says, sometimes I feel sad for Jogu. He's the only Jinyu around, and I don't think he has any friends other than his smelly bottle, of course. It also seems like Jogu lost his family because if you do the Dish for Jogu quest, he says, my family used to make this. They're gone now, but I still love this dish. And so I think a lot of people saw Jogu and they're like, oh, he's just some drunk fish that gives you crop predictions, right? But he actually has a much sadder, depressing backstory, and he just wants friends. So I was like, you know what? The least I could do is put him at number 1 on my pointless list, and that's why Jogu the Drunk is number 1. Number 10 is Nomus, and Nomus is a gnome quest giver located at Wildhammer's stronghold in Shadowmoon Valley. And the first thing that makes Nomus unusual is he is a gnome wearing a purple outfit and flip-flops dancing on bleachers in Shadowmoon Valley, which is just a really weird combination of things, and it gets weirder. So when you talk to him, he has a quest called Splendid, and he says, have you ever heard of a food that cooks itself and stays hot forever? Dare to dream, I say. But maybe it's not a dream at all. Outside the fortress, near the lava pools and streams, you can find beasts that thrive in the sizzling heat, and they're called Fellfire Diametrodons. The dwarves around here tell me that those Diametrodons have the tastiest spleens ever, and that the spleens practically come pre-cooked. Bring me those spleens and I'll give you some coin. And so yeah, you go and you get him his spleens, and then when you bring him back, he hungrily grabs at the spleens and says, here's your coin, I'll call for you if I need more spleens. So delicious. I dare say that they are splendid. He also has a quest where you have to get a Diametrodon gizzard, and then one where you have to fight a giant Diametrodon for its hide. He's also the inventor of the Arcanoscorps, which are mechanical scorpids in the Shadowmoon Valley. And so yeah, Nomus is just extremely weird, extremely unusual, and that's why he's perfect for this list, and that's why he's number 10. Number 9 is Ruza, and Ruza is a jungle troll found dancing in the Inn of Stonebreaker Hold in the Terakar Forest. And I always thought it was weird that there's just this random troll dancing by some crates in Stonebreaker Hold sometimes, and I looked it up on Wowhead, and it says he spawns as someone completes the final code quest. All members of the camp are hiding in fear of getting bombed, so when he hears the news of the disarming of the bomb, he comes out dancing. And if you don't know the final code quest, that's a quest where you have to disarm a mana bomb located at Firewing Point in the eastern part of Terakar Forest. I also think it's kind of unusual because he's usually always dancing whenever I check to see if he's there, so I don't know if they just made it so he's always dancing now, or if it's just like there's a timer after somebody completes the quest where he dances for like, I don't know, a few hours or something. But yeah, I pretty much always see him here, and I think it's pretty fun, right? He's so happy that that mana bomb has been defused that he's just been dancing for years and years, and he's just gonna keep on dancing, and that's pretty great. So that's why Ruza is number 9. Number 8 are Nadja and Soren, and Nadja and Soren are goblin children located in Area 52 in Netherstorm. And the unusual thing about these two NPCs is that they're supposed to be goblin children, but they actually just look like adult goblins. And all that they do is Soren just chases Nadja all around Area 52, and that's it. Like, I don't know why, and that's one of the reasons I always just found it unusual. It's one of the first things I put on this list, because I was like, why are these so-called goblin children just like chasing each other around? Or Soren's chasing Nadja around, I should say. It does say on Wowhead that Soren Kierkegaard was a famous existential philosopher, and there's a book called Nadja written by a French surrealist, and the entire book has an existential undertone starting with the first sentence, who am I? So maybe this is some sort of reference to that of like, why are these goblin children even running around? They're not even children. Like, what's going on, right? Maybe there's some sort of weird surrealist undertones going on here. I have no idea, but it's pretty unusual. And so that's why Nadja and Soren are number 8. 7. Number 7 is Bort, and Bort is an orc quest giver located in Orgrimmar. And Bort has an unusual obsession with Stranglethorn Vale, and so he's got numerous quotes about it, one of which is, "Stranglethorn, babe, that's where it's at." He also says, "You ever been to the jungle? It's real nice." And, "Ah, to be back in Stranglethorn, the screeching raptors, the troll wars, jungle creatures as far as the eye can see, just asking to be killed." Bort sighs. And then sometimes he'll just say, "Hi." And I think Bort might be a Simpsons reference, because there's an episode where Bart's looking at a bunch of novelty license plates that have names on them, and he's like, "They don't have any Bart ones, but they have Bort. Who's named Bort?" And then some kid picks up the Bort license plate, and he's like, "Mommy, I want the Bort license plate." And she's like, "No, we don't need that. Come along, Bort." And then some guy's like, "Are you talking to me?" And then she's like, "No, my son is also named Bort." But yeah, I just think it's unusual that there's an orc named Bort in Orgrimmar that's obsessed with Stranglethorn Vale that might be a Simpsons reference. It's just like a weird combination of stuff, but either way, that's why Bort is number 7. 6. Number 6 is Dundee the Toralus Wrangler, and Dundee is an abomination leftover located in the Wrangler Pit in Maldraxxus. And so there are a few unusual things about Dundee, the first of which is that he is a leftover abomination, which is essentially just an abomination that didn't work out. And so he's got like weird goat feet, he's got a big eye and jaws and like stitched together parts, like he looks pretty weird. But on top of that, he is a Toralus Wrangler, and he's wearing like a cowboy hat or something. And so when I looked it up, it appears that he could be a Crocodile Dundee reference, which would make sense. But my favorite part is when you talk to him and he says, "You might learn a few things working for me. Or maybe not." And then he offers you a quest where he says, "I've carved out quite the reputation as a Toralus Wrangler. Everyone needs a Toralus. You do some work for me, and people will know who you are as well. Take this bone splinter and poke a few juicy nibblers. Use them to lure a Toralus to you, and then write it back to me." And then you gotta do that 5 times. And so yeah, for all those reasons, he's a pretty unusual NPC, and so that's why I put him on the list. So that's why Dundee is number 6. 5. Number 5 are the unusual patrons of Bismo's Brawl Pub, which is the Alliance Brawlers Guild. And this is just one of those places where I think they had a lot of fun designing it, because so many NPCs here are just really weird or unusual, starting with Keith the Party Weston, who says, "There's not nearly enough dancing in this club." And then there's Sniffy Pete, who says, "I need to get some medication for my allergies. A few nights back, some guy threw a ball and told me to fetch. In response, I did the same, but with his head. Needless to say, he didn't have a witty comeback." And then there's Flora, who says, "Druids can sometimes be so serious, but I'm a real party animal." Yes, that was a joke. You should laugh. Now, I always cheer for Gordome anytime he's up. That angry little shovel tusk makes quick work of the slow chubby ones. And then there's Vera Violet Bustle, who says, "You're better off not trusting anything I say. In fact, disregard this. And this place is great. Anywhere else I'd be called a violent sociopath." Well, they call me that here too, but at least they say it to my face with a smile. And of course, we have Lord Winifred Brown, who says, "Who are you? I can assure you that everything here is perfectly legitimate. Good ma'am, we are just a pair of wealthy entrepreneurs enjoying a little friendly blood sport without any gold changing hands." And so yeah, there's some other ones as well, but this place is just loaded with weird and unusual NPCs, and so that's why I had to put it on the list. So that's why the NPCs of Bismo's Brawl Pub are number 5. 4. Number 4 is Benjamin Carvin, and the Carvins are a human family living in Darkshire in Duskwood. And what's so unusual about Benjamin is that he's located upstairs in a room with 5 chairs surrounding a bear rug, and he is just going insane. He's running around the chairs, he's running on the chairs, he's jumping over the chairs, he's running through the chairs. He's going crazy. And then sometimes he'll just stop running around and just look out the window. And then sometimes he picks something up off the floor, like he found a coin on the floor or something, and then that's it. That's like the 3 things that he does, is stare out the window, pick up a coin, and run around these chairs like a crazy person. And after reading some Wowhead comments, it appears that this has been happening since at least 2010, so who knows how long he's been running around upstairs, but it is extremely unusual. And part of me thinks that they did this just because it's in Darkshire and Duskwood, right? Like, it adds that creepy factor to it. I feel like if this was happening in any other zone, it would be like, he's probably just bugging out or glitching out. But the fact that it's in Duskwood, I feel like they did this intentionally to make it kind of creepy and weird for when you discover this kid. So either way, that's why Benjamin Carvin is number 4. 3. Number 3 is Rupert the Gentleman Elemental, and Rupert is an Earth Elemental located at the Dragon Scale Base Camp in the Waking Shore, as well as the Zaralek Cavern. And Rupert is indeed quite the distinguished gentleman. He's wearing a little top hat, and when you talk to him, he's like, "Good day to you. It is my pleasure to make your acquaintance." And when you ask him how he can help you, he says, "Goodness! Well, I do like to have a fine old time exploring, and Navarra told me that you have been climbing around the Dragon Isles. I would so like to see those places, and if at all possible, it would be wonderful if I could assist you during those excursions. I can be quite the helping hand." Oh yeah, also he has a monocle. I should have mentioned that with the top hat, but he does have a monocle as well. And if you go questing with him in the Zaralek Cavern, you can actually talk to him, and he'll be like, "I'm not going any further, if that's okay with you. Do you require assistance to return to the camp?" And then you can talk to him to return to the camp. Yeah, I wish we just had more unusual NPCs like Rupert. He kind of reminds me of Sir Finley a little bit, but I think it's even funnier because he's just this massive rock elemental with a top hat and monocle, and he's like, "Good day." So yeah, that's why Rupert the Gentleman Elemental is number 3. 2. Number 2 are Sigrun Ironhue and Joshar Rock Bison. And Sigrun Ironhue is a dwarf quest giver located in a small camp south of Hammertoe's dig site in the Badlands, and Joshar Rock Bison is an orc found in Warspear in Ashran. And the reason I put them on the list is they are both very unusual drunks. And so Sigrun Ironhue is an unusual drunk because he's constantly in a state of tipsiness or drunkenness, and he's like, and he's like seemingly about to fall over or pass out or something. But then when you talk to him for a quest, he acts extremely normal. But occasionally while he's talking, he'll like go back to that weird drunken state. It's kind of unsettling. But anyway, his quest involves him talking about how he wants to do less digging and more drinking. And so he wants you to go get 15 mugs of Shadow Stout. And so you bring him the beer and he licks his lips in anticipation. And then he instantly downs a dusty mug of Shadow Stout. And he's like, "Wow, this stuff is strong. I knew they had beer, but I never expected them to have Shadow Stout. That's my favorite Shadow beer." Then he gives you a quest to go find treasure in the bottom floor of the Angor Fortress, and he'd go with you, but he's drunk. So you go and do that for him and fight like a whole bunch of stuff, and then go back to him, and he's like, "Wow, thanks, here you go," and he just gives you like some Dustwind cowl, which I think is worth far less than the actual treasure is. Meanwhile, then we have Joshar Rock Bison, and he follows a set route where he goes and orders a drink. He then downs that drink very quickly, and then he heads out to the outhouses and uses the outhouse, and then after a short amount of time, he returns to the tavern and repeats the process. And that's really it. That's what I find so unusual about it. They just added in a drunk orc that was like, "I gotta keep drinking and peeing," and that's all he does. That's his whole purpose. And so yeah, it's just two very unusual drunk NPCs, and that's why they're number 2. 1. And number 1 is Barnaby Fletcher, the Washed Up Mage. And the Washed Up Mage is located in the underbelly of Dalaran and can be found there behind a sewer grate where he's asleep or passed out, most likely passed out because he's actually the start and finish of a quest which rewards you with the cooking recipe for Kungaloosh, which is the alcohol that you learn how to make in Sholazar Basin. And so when you have the quest and click on him in the sewer, it says, "Above the stale, unwashed stench, you catch a whiff of a familiar smell. It appears as if this once mighty adventurer has a real love for Kungaloosh." Peeking through the bars, you can barely make out the recipe written on his arm. And honestly, I don't even know how he got back here behind the sewer grate. Like, it's easy to get into the sewer, but getting behind these grates seems kind of crazy. There's like some areas where maybe he could have gotten into, but I don't know. However, that's not all that makes this guy unusual. So as of patch 5.1 in Mist of Pandaria, he shows up as Barnaby Fletcher in the Half Hill Market occasionally and peddles a new type of seed to take advantage of the tiller's hospitality. However, the seeds that he actually sells are just unstable portal shards that you plant and open a one-shot portal to a major city. And he's got a few unusual quotes such as, "Can you believe these people just set out free food? This place is amazing. 4 months magic free and it feels great." And "Discovering the power in these shards gave me the will to drag myself out of the gutter and get my life together. Oh, and I was also kicked out." But yeah, I just thought he was one of the most unusual NPCs in World of Warcraft, and that's why he's number 1. 10. Number 10 is some stuff that I found out in the water near the fatigue areas of the Dragon Isles. And I actually thought I was discovering some crazy stuff because there's this big shipwreck, which you can see right there. And then nearby, there's a skeleton that's by some planks. So I was like, oh, this guy must have been by the ship. And then there's this little lantern thing that's got some light beaming out of it. So I was like, yo, that's pretty cool. And then right near that, you see this skeleton of a fish that has a dagger or a sword stabbed into its head. So I was like, yo, this guy must have put up a fight, and then he stabbed this fish, and then he couldn't swim up and he just died. And then a little near there's actually another big fish skeleton, and this one has a skeleton of a person inside that fish skeleton. So there's a lot of skeletons down here, which makes sense. I mean, we're way under the sea. But what made me put this at number 10 after finding all this cool stuff is a lot of this is just reused assets from Battle for Azeroth. And when I was swimming around BFA, I found these lanterns, I found these skeletons like all over the place. And I was like, dude, I thought I stumbled across some like crazy story that got put there, but really, it was just some reused assets. I think I even found a couple more of these in the Dragon Isles, but I think I found the coolest set of skeletons that tell the most cohesive stories. So that's why it's number 10. 9. Number 9 are some things I found in Southwest Azuna out in the Great Sea. And the first thing is the Sword in the Stone. And it's literally a sword in the stone, which I imagine is a reference to the Excalibur sword from King Arthur. I couldn't think of King Arthur for a bit. And it appears there's some skeletons with spears in them. So either there must have been a battle around here, maybe to get the sword, or maybe they tried to get the sword and they got hit before they could get it. Who knows? But I do know that this was pretty cool to find because I never knew this was here. And then not too far away from this, there are these giant fish skeleton bones. At least I think it's a fish. Maybe it's a whale. Whatever it is something massive. Oh, like look at the rib cage on this thing. It almost looks like a dome. Like this is a house people could live in. And it's just this giant rib cage. And I saw this and I was like, dude, this is so cool. Like I would love a building like this. Like maybe if the Tuskar made a building out of this somehow, they like got this out of the ground and then did that. I don't know. I'm just theorizing and throwing stuff together. And then finally, right near this big whale skeleton is this pearl. And it's just this pearl in this area and it's just chilling there. I don't know if it has any meaning. I don't think it has any quest or purpose, or I don't think anything happens in this area. I think it's just a cool little area with a pearl and some clams. It almost looks like a chair actually, but that's why all these things in Southwest Azuna are number 9. 8. Number 8 is in the water below the bridge that leads from the Arathi Highlands into the wetlands. And in the water below the bridge, there appears to be a dwarf who has been crushed by the bridge or fallen off or something has happened to him. And I was really curious about who this dwarf was. And so after researching it, I found out that his name is Sully Baloo. And according to Wowpedia, Sully Baloo is a dwarven soldier with much faith in his mission stationed in Dunmodir. He and his unit were dispatched to watch over the Thandal Span. During the Dark Iron Clan assault, Sully died, most likely due to falling off the bridge. His body can now be found in the water beneath the span next to a letter for his wife in case of his death. After the letter is delivered, his wife Sarah Baloo writes a plea to King Magni Bronzebeard, who orders Grand Mason Marbleston to build a granite memorial for Sully. And this is actually a real-life reference to a letter written by Union Major Sullivan Baloo to his wife Sarah shortly after the First Battle of Bull Run in July of 1861. So there you go. It turns out, when you go underwater and swim around, you never know what you're gonna find, and that's why Sully Baloo is number 8. 7. Number 7 is the Old God treasure that you can find in Tiragard Sound or in Dragon Isles somewhere. I actually couldn't find it in Dragon Isles, but I did find it in Tiragard, and I know that because when I researched everything, there were people making threads being like, dude, are there old gods in the Dragon Isles? Are they like under the sea? But then people were like, no, this is like reused assets from Battle for Azeroth. So it probably is more tied into N'Zoth since that was all in Battle for Azeroth. But it also kind of gives me the Darkmoon Faire vibe. So this could almost be tied into the Darkmoon Faire in some weird way as well, especially because a lot of that was tied into like, we don't know where the Darkmoon Faire Island actually is. So this could be a reference to that. Like, who knows? There's so many theories about this treasure. But one thing's for sure, and that's nobody has any idea of what it actually is, except the fact that it's an old god eyeball, potentially, and it's just around a bunch of treasure. However, this might be the perfect opportunity to say inside pointless things are treasure, but we don't actually know if this is pointless or not. So that's why I couldn't put it higher up on the list, and it's reused assets. So that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is some cool stuff that I found northeast of High Mountain and Stormheim out in the Great Sea. And I'm kind of cheating here because I'm like putting multiple things at every spot, but there was so much cool stuff that I found underwater that I was like, I got to include a lot of these. So I just started grouping things that were pretty close together in their own category. So There's actually a ton more. I can make a whole nother video on this, but for now, here's what appears to be a Vrykul ship being eaten by this giant dragon skeleton thing. I think it's a dragon. It kind of looks like it, and it clearly took a giant bite out of this ship, and then I guess they just both crashed into the water or something, and they're all dead. But that was really cool to find underwater. And then over here, we have this upside down boat with these nets kind of holding it up, and these crabs are just running around. And occasionally the crabs will be like, blue, 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 and like a bunch of sand and dust like flies up. So like, I don't know what they were doing. It looks like they were playing some sort of sport, but I don't know what crabs do, so they're having fun, I guess. And then finally, we have the corrupted groupers, which are swimming around this crashed, sunken, forsaken ship, and there's a bunch of these toxic barrels just sitting down there, which appears to be the reason why these groupers are corrupted. And again, there's no quest for these guys. There's really nothing that talks about them at all. This is just some random thing out in the ocean, which is pretty pointless. So I love that, and that's why they're number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Bubble Bath, and the Bubble Bath is located beneath the Hissing Grotto in the northwestern Waking Shores. And from what I researched, this area is actually used for a couple of things, one of which is the Hidden Dragon Pet Quest, and then the other one is the Otto the Mount Quest. But I mainly picked this area because I love how goofy it is. They have a dancing pad on the ground. There's just a bunch of people walking around like they're above ground. And I also wanted to give a shout out to all the other underwater bars and inns located throughout Azeroth, because there's a lot of them. And I've even mentioned some of them in Pointless Top 10 Taverns, which you could go watch after this if you want. But I wanted to give a shout out to all those because I do think it's really cool that they have a bunch of these underwater taverns and inns located all over in Battle for Azeroth and Dragon Isles. And so that's why the Bubble Bath and all of the other taverns underwater are number 5. 4. Number 4 is this giant elf statue located in the ruins southeast of Suramar out in the Great Sea. And I'm not sure who this elf is. I guess it could be Elune. Maybe it could be some other famous elf. I would imagine you'd have to be pretty famous in order to get a statue built out of yourself. And the statue actually reminded me of the front of the ship, those things on the front. That's the figurehead, right? It reminded me of a figurehead on the front of a ship. And although this isn't a ship, I guess maybe they modeled it after the figurehead of a ship, I guess. Whatever it is, I think it is pretty cool. And then all around her, there's elf ruins, there's some fish bones, there's a bunch of trees and kelp and stuff. And if you really enjoy exploring underwater, I would say this is an area you should start with because there is so much stuff here. There's way more ruins than this. I think Legion had like the most stuff underwater out of anything I looked through. So if you really want to go exploring underwater, go look at Legion because it's got an insane amount of unique things. But anyway, that's why the underwater Suramar ruins and elf statue are number 4. 3. For number 3, we head out to Draenor, where we have a little thing and a big thing, quite literally. So we start with Ashran, and if you go into the fatigued waters of Ashran, you will find this gnome skeleton, and he's got a jug of something, and then some sort of cage to catch something. Like, I don't know what that cage is for, but it's a gnome skeleton out in the waters. I don't know what he was doing. Maybe he was collecting mushrooms. Maybe he was trying to do something. Whatever he was doing, it did not end well. And the other one is out in the eastern waters of Gorgrond, and there is this big ogre cyclops statue with a bunch of mushrooms growing out of it. And it's just really cool. I don't know how it got there either, but it's randomly out there. There's actually a treasure chest with like an anchor and a skeleton nearby, so maybe they were trying to get out there too. I don't know what they were doing, but I just think this was really cool to find out in the water. In fact, scouting Draenor underwater was pretty easy. For some reason, like swimming through the Draenor water was a lot clearer than swimming through a lot of the other places. So it's actually easier to find stuff underwater in Draenor, but I don't know why. It's just the way the graphic settings are or something. But either way, that's why the gnome skeleton and the ogre cyclops statue head are number 3. 2. Number 2 is located in the far northeastern part of Stormheim, and I mean way northeast, and it is this weird spot where the shark is just chilling under this big rib cage, and there's some pirate ship stuff around here, and then there's a bunch of dead murlocs. In fact, these are called lifeless murlocs. And when I looked it up on Wowhead, there were only 2 comments, and they were just like, yeah, I mean, these are just lifeless murlocs in this really weird area, and there's really nothing, relevant about this place. It's just they're just here. And so if I had to make some sort of assumption, I would say the shark probably did it, right? I think the shark probably killed all of them. I don't know if they were on the boat. I don't think Murlocs know how to sail a boat, so I don't think they crashed it here. Maybe they came here after somebody else shipwrecked and they were trying to loot it, and then the shark came over and was like, yo, I'm gonna kill all these Murlocs, and then it did. I have no idea. It's such an odd thing to find out in the water in the middle of nowhere, and that's why it was perfect for number 2. And number 1 is the Writhing Leviathan located at Hayman's Hideaway in Vol'dun. And I think a lot of people already know about this one, but I just think it's really cool. So the Writhing Leviathan is this big kraken, and then there's this horn, and you can blow the horn, and he's just like, and he starts, you know, doing a little jig, I guess. He's just like, he's dancing around. And then on top of that, there's this little boathouse area, and then there's a bunch of jellyfish just kind of floating all around. It's a really cool area. And the reason I wanted to put it at number 1 is it just has this cool, creepy vibe to it, right? Because everybody's like, oh, there might be monsters down in the seas below. And so this actually kind of feeds into that, because you're like, oh, what's this horn? And you look down and you just see that, and you're like, but then, you know, he's just kind of doing his own thing. He's dancing around, having a good time. The jellyfish are there to watch him, or maybe they're his friends. So to me, this is actually a really fun place, but I'm sure for other people, they are freaked out and scared and like, I'm never coming back here. And that's fine too. And that's why the Writhing Leviathan is number 1. Number 10 is the fact that the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj is actually shaped like a giant scarab beetle. So if you fly all the way up into the sky and do a top-down view of the actual Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, you'll see it's actually shaped like a scarab. Like, look at that. It's got all the little legs. It's got the carapace or whatever it's called. I don't know enough about beetles, but I know that that's a thing. And I genuinely never even knew this. Like, I think it's just always been like this, and it's crazy because you go there all the time, right? It's almost one of those things where you never look up at the ceiling. Well, you never really fly all the way up and look directly down at the Temple of Ahn'Qiraj, right? And I mean, they designed this in vanilla WoW, where nobody could go all the way up and fly around and see stuff like that. So I mean, maybe you could see it on the mini-map. I saw some people say they saw it on the mini-map, or maybe you could just kind of piece it together, like, this place kind of looks like a scarab. But I think it's really cool they designed it like that, because they could have just thrown it together back then and been like, whatever, nobody's going to look at it from the outside anyway. But they did, and it's pretty neat, especially all these years later. So that's why it's number 10. Number 9 is an interesting one, because I always remember questing around the furbolgs, or the furblogs. I used to call them furblogs, but that's not what they're called. And I'd always see them standing by these logs, and I was like, what are these big logs? And then I realized it's their homes, and I was like, oh, okay, that's pretty cool, but you never really got to see inside. But there is one home that allows you to look inside and see what these logs are like. So in Felpaw Village in Felwood, if you go all the way to the northwestern part of the village, there is this little area with a patio porch type of area, and it allows you to go in through the side of the house. And it's actually very cozy. There's like a soup or a stew being cooked up in the cauldron. There's some plants all around. He's got some swift thistle and like various herbs. There's a beehive. It's genuinely a cozy place. And this is a very Grizzly Hills aesthetic type of house. So I think what happened was they made the Wrath of the Lich King Furbolg areas, and then when they went to Cataclysm, when they were redoing some of this Furbolg stuff, they were like, hey, you know what? Let's just make one of these houses with the assets we already have into a Grizzly Hills type of Furbolg house. So that's what I think happened, but I love it. So that's why it's number 9. Number 8 are the Gardener's Apprentices in Valdrakken, and this is kind of tucked away in an area of Valdrakken that I never really went to. So I think that's why I didn't realize this, but I love these guys. The one is this little guy who's following the other around with a rake, so he's learning how to do whatever the other guys do it. I don't know if that's how you rake around here, but he's just like swinging that thing and hitting stuff. All right. But my favorite is this little guy with a watering can, and he just keeps watering this plant, which I think he's giving it a little too much water, but who knows? I'm not a gardener apprentice. What do I know? But if you click on him, he will actually turn towards you and start watering you and give you the watering buff, which gives you a 15% increase to your mana regen and fire resist, which I love that. It's just a little type of role play element they added in. And, you know, I think a lot of people are always like, oh, they've taken roleplay elements out of WoW. But I think, you know, this shows that there's actually a lot of cool little things in WoW that I think people just don't go out of their way to find or notice. And I think it's pretty cool. So that's why the Gardener's Apprentices are number 8. Number 7 is the Dalaran Mailroom. And I wanted to put this on the list because unless you played Legion or are a pet collector to go get the pet you can get from here, most people completely forgot about the Dalaran mailroom. Or even if you did go to the Dalaran mailroom back in the day, you've probably forgotten about it now. I know I did. I did the quest here, and I still forgot that Dalaran has a mailroom. And so this place is below Dalaran. You have to click on a letter and start a quest line, and then you click on this tube in the back of Dalaran, and it warps you down here, and there's the postmaster, and he's in charge of sending mail to characters and retrieval of items that were not rewarded into players' inventory, usually because their inventory was full. And he uses mail elementals to sort the mail, which happens to be the pet that you can get from here. And the postmaster's office actually has tubes for delivering mail to all of the game's continents except Draenor. So that's kind of funny. He's not sending it back in time. But yeah, this is such a cool place, and I really wanted to give it some more acknowledgement, so that's why the Dalaran mailroom, number 7. 6. For number 6, we're staying in Dalaran for the cockroach-powered alchemy machine. That's right, you heard correctly. The cockroach-powered alchemy machine. And I don't remember this at all. Like, this was added in Legion, I believe, because this is in Legion Dalaran, and it's in the Horde area right next to the Horde Inn where you walk up the stairs. And I don't think I've seen this anywhere else. Maybe there's some little areas where it's at, but I do not remember ever seeing this machine that is like how they have a mouse running a wheel to power something. I think the cockroach is just powering this tube spinner thing, and I'm just like, I don't know how he's doing it. He's not running. So like, how are they getting the energy from this cockroach? Like, I genuinely don't know, and I don't know if I want to know. And it's kind of weirding me out. And that's why I put it on the list, and that's why it's number 6. 5. Number 5 is Dock 1 Exports, which is a store located in Borealis, which is a reference to Pier 1 Imports, which used to be a big retail chain located all over. You've probably been in one, and now they only exist online. I believe all their brick and mortar stores are closed, but I always enjoyed walking around there. They had like wacky pillows and plates and random furniture and stuff. It was cool. And so finding this place, I was like, oh yeah, I forgot this place existed in Borealis. That's pretty cool. And then I realized that there's this woman there that is bringing these dolls from the toy store across the street back over to the Dock 1 Exports, going upstairs into a bedroom and then putting the dolls into this big bed and then going away. And I don't know why. I don't know why this is happening. I don't know if this is a reference to something, but I genuinely couldn't find anything, and I'm just curious as to what this means. What is happening? Is this some weird, like, creepy horror movie thing? Like, I don't know, but I didn't even know this was a thing up until now. And so because of that, I had to put it on this list, and that's why it's number 5. 4. Number 4 is the Laval Rock Isle, and Laval Rock Isle is a small island in the Fatigue Zone off the southern coast of the Azure Span, and it's a very rocky landscape littered with dead plant life, piles of bones, and crabs. Crabs specifically wearing dragon skulls and dragon vertebrae on their backs. And I believe their leader is Crustostio, who is located in one of the caves on the island and has blood on his claws and is wearing a big dragon skull. And for any hunters that want to tame one of these crabs to have a crazy dragon skull crab, it will get rid of the skull, so you'll just have a normal crab, so you can't do that. And I don't know, that's it. I mean, I looked all around the internet, I couldn't find anything about what this place means or why it's here or if it's a reference to something, so if you know, post it in the comments section below, because I have no idea, and it seems like most people don't, unless maybe it's just some fun thing they added in. Who knows? But that's why the Laval Rock Island is number 4. 3. Number 3 is the upper part of the Undercity, where there used to be nothing here, and it was just inaccessible, and now there is one thing here, and it's this big banquet going on between a bunch of various undead partygoers, I guess you could call them, and they've got some really interesting looking green sewer cake, they've got wine, and that's pretty much it. They're just all standing around having a good time, partying in the Undercity. Never expected to see that, but this is all apparently part of a rogue quest, the Hiding in Plain Sight quest, which I've actually covered for a few other pointless top 10s that kind of tied into it, but Mistress Matilda is the apparent Forsaken located at the Rogues Quarter, and she's organizing a party in the Undercity, but in truth, she is a homunculus created by the Burning Legion to infiltrate their enemies, and if you don't know what that is, it is a type of undead construct so lifelike so as to be undetectable even by undead hunting experts such as Lillian Voss. And so yeah, it's just a big Forsaken party hidden away in the upper parts of the Undercity, which I think is pretty awesome, and that's why it's number 3. 2. Number 2 is the Hidden Tanara story, and this is a cool one because there's no quests about this, there's nothing that really tells you what happened, but you can use your imagination and your mystery solving skills, if you want, to kind of figure it out for yourself. So if you go to Gadgetson and you go out one of the gates, you'll see that there's a bunch of footprints in the ground and a bunch of tracks, whether they're goblin, animals, Kodo, like whatever. And you can follow these, and they start out with like a bunch of them, like this big expedition, and slow enough, they start to dwindle. They start to just slow down. There's bones that start to appear, so clearly people died on this journey. There's supplies that are stuck in the ground, and then you see some smaller tracks. So clearly the party is dwindling, right? And they're just kind of going off on their own paths, and then one of the animals looks like they die. There's one where this guy is clearly by himself, and he's just like dropping his axe, then he drops his shield, and then you just see his bones there, so he's dead. And then you can go down some other paths, and there's one where you see a guy going out, and then he tries to turn around and U-turn his way back to Gadgetson, but dies halfway there, which it's kind of funny because Gadgetson's like 30 seconds away, but I guess, you know, in terms of like the actual story and roleplay scale of the game, this is like a big trek for them, right? And so a lot of people theorize that deeper into Tanaris, there's this big camp, and it's got a bunch of collapsed tents and skeletons. So maybe this was a caravan that was supposed to go out there and bring them supplies and rescue them, and they just couldn't make it. But it's honestly really cool when they put stuff like this in the game, because it leaves it open to interpretation, and I love that about it. So you can go to Tanaris for yourself and kind of scout it out, but it's one of my favorite things from the zone, so that's why it's number 2. And number 1 are the cave painting rocks in Mulgore. And I remember way back in the day questing in Mulgore and seeing these rocks and being like, well, those are pretty cool. But I never put thought behind it as to how are these things created? Like, we have some buffalo rocks that I don't think there's any buffalo in the game. So I don't know if this is like an ancient Tauren or something, like a Tauren before they became a Tauren. They used to walk on all fours, and then they're like, wow, we started walking with 2 feet with magic or something. Like, I don't know the origin of Tauren, but maybe. And then there's another weird one. Looks like there's horseshoes and a weird llama horse thing. I don't know what that is either. It's a really weird thing to find in the game, and it's just been around forever, so I'm curious to what everybody else's interpretations are of these rocks. And so while there might be some other stuff on this list that you think should be number 1 in comparison, for me it's just the nostalgic value of these rocks. I always love Mulgore, and then just the mystery behind these too. Like, what are these cave paintings? Are these like old Tauren thing? Like, I don't know. It's really cool, and I've always wondered, so that's why the Mulgore rocks are number 1. 10. Number 10 is this small Tortolan riding a crab around the Seeker's Vista in Stormsong Valley, and it's pretty much what you think it is. It's a Tortolan riding a crab. But I always just thought it was kind of odd. I was like, there's really no point to this, is there? He's just kind of chilling, riding around, but that's where you'd be wrong, because the point is he's having fun with his friends. And isn't that why we're all playing World of Warcraft at the end of the day? We're just trying to have fun with our friends. Or maybe he's trying to collect mounts, and this is the only mount he's got, and he's showing it off to all his friends. Like, who knows? But I did think it was an odd thing to see, because normally this type of thing is related to a quest or something going on, but it's really just he's riding a crab around. I was actually going to call this list Weird Things in World of Warcraft, but I realized saying weird things would make it be more creepy, I guess. Like, weird and creepy kind of go together, but I think odd is weird enough to be like, oh, it's an odd thing. Like, it's just kind of a goofy thing. So that's why Mebo riding around on his trained crab is number 10. 9. Number 9 is this giant pipe located at both the Sunrock Retreat in Stone Talon Mountains and Thunderbluff, and it is the biggest pipe I think I've seen, not in World of Warcraft, but maybe just in general. Like, this thing is gigantic. I don't know what they're smoking out of here. Like, I don't know if it's for show. I don't know if it's for incense. I don't know if it's like how you see the visions of the shaman gods, or like, I don't know what they're doing here, but it is gigantic, and there is some like red smoke coming out of it. It appears that it is functional, so I mean, that's something, but it's got these weird face carvings in it, which are kind of freaky, to be honest. In fact, I wanted to do a pointless top 10 faces in objects. Like, I know there's the Knoll tents, there's like some other ones, but this might make that list, because this is just, it looks like a weird pig Tauren man carved into it, and like a weird bug thing. I think some of these faces were actually on the totem poles or the windmills and water mills of the Crossroads and the Barrens, so maybe they just took a giant hit from this pipe and then started carving, and that's what came out. Like, I don't know, but either way, it is a little odd, and that's why it's number 9. 8. Number 8 are these turtles on logs in the Onaran Plains in Dragonflight. And there's actually 2 separate logs where the turtles are on, and both of them have exactly 5 turtles lined up on them. And I'm like, why? Like, there's no quest, there's no anything. It's just there's 2 logs with 5 turtles lined up, and that's it. I looked around, I couldn't find anything on it. So if I had to take a wild guess, I would say the art team and the people designing the zones, they might have some like paying tribute to somebody, like maybe their parents really like turtles and they have like 5 kids, so they're like, I'll put 5 turtles on a log to symbolize that, you know, something like that. That's what I would say is the most common answer to what this is, right? But overall, I mean, I think it's still cool. It is a little odd, which is why it's on the list, but I love these types of things in the game. You know, it doesn't have to be everything's related to a quest, and there's you know, sometimes it's fun little things you find out in the world and you're just like, what is that? That's kind of odd. And that's why it's number 8. 7. Number 7 are a couple of pottery pieces that I found around the game, and one of them is on the Zandalar ships, and it's this weird baby woman. It's a woman that looks like a baby, like a cherub or something, or it's like a baby, but it's got like weird design. I don't know what it is. I genuinely don't know what that picture is, and it's like, it kind of freaks me out because it feels so off from the actual art style of the game that I'm just like, I don't know. And it's like, it's just hugging the bottle, right? Or hugging the jug or whatever. And then there's also in the Dalaran wine shop, this old pot. I think there's a few of these pots around, but it's like a hoplite pot, which were the citizen soldiers of ancient Greek city-states who were primarily armed with spears and shields. And I don't know why a hoplite is on a vase in Dalaran. Like, I really don't. But then there's also like some old Roman Greek portrait of a woman soldier as well. I genuinely don't know like who got this art. If this is another like inside joke type of thing, they were just like, hey, you know, let's just put some wacky art on this stuff. Like, it's it's so weird and it's very odd, and that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is Key Crack, and Key Crack is located in the northern island of the Naeli Lagoon in south-central Krasarong Wilds, and there is a large population of crocolists that are just fighting and killing each other. But first, the name Key Crack actually may be a reference to the 2 volcanoes, Mauna Kea and Krakatoa. Don't know if I said the first one right, but I think Krakatoa is right. It's just crazy how they're just all standing around fighting each other. There's just a bunch of dead crocolists all over. It's not something you see every day in World of Warcraft. Once you do the quest, it says the Hosen to the south are overfishing these waters. With the fish gone, the crocolists are hungry and desperate, and so they attack. Which does make sense, and it makes it a lot less odd, but it's still, you know, it's odd to come across this and be like what's going on? You know what I mean? And even when you know what's happening, it's still an odd thing to come across. So that's why Key Crack Crocolisks, sounds like a tongue twister, is number 6. 5. Number 5 are these big silver puddles in the Silver Marsh of Deep Home. And I remember flying across this looking at stuff, and I was like, dude, this stuff is so weird. It's like magnetic almost. It's like scooting around. It's just like bloop, 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 but it didn't move like liquid. And I was like, wait a second. Is that mercury? And then I was like, oh wait, it is a mercury-filled rock marsh on the upper shelf of Deep Home. And I was like, it is mercury. And there's also mercury elementals around. And I completely forgot all about Deep Home and Cataclysm stuff. Like, it's crazy how much of Deep Home I just had no recollection of. And this actually really got me looking into mercury. And it was interesting learning a lot about it and watching YouTube people play around with it and stuff. Cause like, I'm not touching it. That shit's like super toxic. But mercury does not react with most acids. It's actually named for the Roman god Mercury, and it's the only element to retain its alchemical name as its modern common name. So, I don't know. I feel like the World of Warcraft heroes need to take advantage of this. They should just bottle up some mercury and just start throwing it at, like, I don't know, throw it at raid bosses. Like, I don't know what'll happen. Can you imagine we just, like, bottle up some mercury and just throw it at, like, a evil dragon? He's like, bah, this shit's toxic. But anyway, that's why the mercury pools in Deep Home are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the monkeys located in the Tavern in the Mist hot tub behind the tavern. And a lot of people know about the Tavern in the Mist. If you don't, it's located atop the Path of 100 Steps on the Veiled Stair, which is just kind of in the mountains of the Mist of Pandaria. And most people probably know about the Tavern in the Mist because of Rathian, who's located here and has the big legendary quest chain. But the big thing here is the hot tub out back. And sometimes there's nobody at the hot tub, but usually around 8 p.m. every day, day, give or take, there are these monkeys that show up and they just go crazy. There's one hanging from the light post. There's one sitting on the thing that shoots out water to fill the hot tub. There's 3 of them that are in the hot tub and they're all just like slamming the ground like, bleh! I don't know what they're doing. They're having a great time. But it is just kind of odd to, number one, have a tavern that has a hot tub out back, but then to see a bunch of monkeys in that hot tub just going crazy. So that's why the Tavern and the Mist Monkeys are number 4. Number 3 are these weird test tube dragon babies that are in the Zarlek Cavern right outside the raid. And I remember first seeing these when I was questing in the Zarlek Cavern. And I was like, what the shit are these? And then they like twitch. They go like, and I'm like, what? Like, again, this is just something that feels so odd to see in World of Warcraft. Like weird test tube dragon babies. I think they're dragon babies. I don't know what else they could be. I think it's related to the whole raid because there's like the lab and they're growing stuff, but I'm sure people that actually know more about the lore of World of Warcraft actually know what these are, but I don't even care. Even if you know the lore, these are just, they're so creepy to look at, just watching them sit in their little tube and just like twitch every so often. Like it's just kind of, I don't know, it's just unsettling to me, right? Like they look like big shrimps with legs and they just twitch out. I don't like it. So that's why they're number 3. Number 2 are the Mulgore critters fighting each other. And this is one that you could see for a long time. Like for over a decade, people have been like, did you know that there's critters up in Mulgore having a big battle? So I think most people know about this one, but the weird thing is now a lot of them are just normal and then they'll morph all of a sudden into a critter that's like ready for war. Like the mice will just morph into these skull gun mice. The prairie dogs will morph into like army helmet knife guy. Like now they just warp into it. And some people theorize that because the critter models got revamped, that it messed everything up here. So I don't know if they had to recode things. I don't know if they just let it run how it is. And sometimes they are normal, sometimes they morph. I have no idea, but no matter what it is very odd to see a rabbit running around with an axe in its mouth or a mouse with a skull hat and a gun. So that's why the Critter War critters of Mulgore are number 2. And number 1 are the skiing and sledding penguins located in Tiergard Sound. And I remember I warped with my engineering portal and it put me here and I was like, where am I? And then I looked around and I was like, dude, there's just a bunch of penguins like sitting on the ski lifts and they're just like chilling around. There's this lady, she's just like riding on a penguin. And apparently there was a world quest where you actually rode on a penguin and sled down the slopes and you get chased by a Yeti and he knocks you off the penguin. You got to keep doing it. I either forgot that was a thing or just was completely oblivious to it. But this was actually the thing that inspired me to make this list because I remember seeing this for the first time and just being like, this place is so weird. It's so odd. Like you're just sledding down the mountains on penguins. There's people riding penguins like it's a surfboard or something. There's the ski lift, which like nobody's even skiing here. So like, did they like stop skiing and they turned it into a penguin sledding place? I have no idea, but it's pretty odd. And that's why it's number 1. Number 10 is the Raptor House in Northern Val'sharah. And I picked this one because it is one of the weirdest buildings that I haven't really seen anywhere else in World of Warcraft. Like even in this area, I couldn't find another building that looked like this. And I guess you could say it's not really like a building per se, because it's a bunch of trees kind of joined together, but it looks like they made a house out of it. I don't know how these raptors did it. Maybe they've got some good architect raptors over here, but it's clearly got the big log roof and then all the little side pieces. There's even some old boards or something. So maybe some humans or some elves used to live here and then everything got, washed on shore or like a storm happened and then the raptors took over, because there are a bunch of like bottles and things here too. So it's really unique, and I haven't even seen any other buildings in this area that look like this, let alone in the game or in other spots. So if you've seen anything like this, let me know in the comments section, because I haven't seen anything like it. But it is a pretty weird building, and that's why it's number 10. Number 9 is the Troll Temple at Bombala, and Bombala is a horde encampment just outside of Zul'Gurub. And I actually picked this because there's not many other troll temples that look like this in the game. Like there's a bunch of skulls all over and this big skull statue with these candles all around it. There's a lot of cool wall art of, various trolls and snakes, and it actually looks like there's a little Illidan guy. At least that's what I see. Do you see it, the little Illidan guy? There's snake statues all over. It's a really cool, unique type of building. Or I guess it's kind of a weird building because that's the title of this video. But I was going to call this video like unique buildings or odd buildings, but I settled on weird because I was like, I don't know. But just because a building is weird in World of Warcraft doesn't mean it's cool. In fact, I think all of these buildings are really cool, even though they are just, you know, they're a little weird. They're not normal compared to a lot of the other structures in World of Warcraft. That's really the main point of the video. One other thing I did learn about this, though, is Bombala actually uses all the objects from Yojamba, which is the isle that used to be attached with Zul'Gurub and everything. So these are essentially reused assets added in Cataclysm. So I guess this would actually be the Yojamba Isle Temple. But you know what? This is actually more pointless. So I think it's more fitting for this series. So that's why it's number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Umbrafen tents, and the Umbrafen tents are located in both Zangarmarsh and Nagrand, and maybe even a couple other places, but these are the main areas I found them in. There might be some in Terakar, but I love these buildings because they do look really weird. They almost look like big hats, you know what I mean? Like big pointy wizard hats or something, and they got the big curl up top. I think they look really cool, but they are very weird. Like, you look all over the game, I don't see anything even close to resembling these tents, but I actually like them a lot. And every time I kept flying by them, I was like, dude, I want to put these in a list. And I just couldn't figure it out. And then when I was making this weird buildings list, I was like, dude, these are some weird buildings. I gotta do it. Even the big main headquarters type of building, it's like the biggest of all the tents. And then there's a big staircase going up to the top. And usually they have the leader guy there for a bunch of quests and stuff. That one's really cool as well, even though it doesn't look as kind of weird and crazy as some of the other ones. But I really do love these, even if they are weird and kind of wacky looking, but I think they're really cool. And so I had to put them on the list. And that's why the Umbrafen buildings are number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Tuskar buildings located in the Howling Fjord and Dragonblight. And I picked these specifically because there's a lot of places where Tuskar have buildings that look kind of like this, but I always remember these were like the first ones I ever saw way back in Wrath of the Lich King. And I remember being like, dude, these buildings are so crazy, right? And they were just very unconventional and weird compared to a lot of the other buildings you'd see in World of Warcraft. But they made sense, right? Because the Tuskar are fishermen. They're making buildings out of things that look like fish. Like this one looks like a squid crab. You can even see the little crab eyes. They even put crabs inside. So I'm pretty sure it's based off a crab. But a lot of the buildings actually have these like tentacle, like structures coming out of them. I just think it's really cool. And so yeah, the Tuskar just got some great architecture. And I know I say it wrong, all right? I can't say it correctly. Architecture. I don't know how to say it right. Architecture. Am I saying it right now? It doesn't even sound right to me. I don't know. Either way, that's why the Tuskar buildings are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the buildings located at the Colossal's Fall and Gromgar in Frostfire Ridge. And what makes these buildings so weird, if you couldn't tell, is they are made out of colossals or earthen giants. And so the colossals, according to the WoW wiki, were an immense species of giant that once lived on Draenor before being driven extinct. They were enormously large, could possess either 1 or 2 eyes, and were the ones who first shaped Draenor. And several massive colossal skeletons can be found across the alternate Draenor, but it seems that these remains were destroyed along with the rest of Draenor in the main universe. But I really do love that they just turn these giant, dead, colossal giant skeletons into a home for themselves. You know what I mean? Like, it almost reminds me of the Tuskar, where they made these fish-type buildings. Well, here in Draenor, they're like, you know what? Let's just make some colossal buildings. And I mean, really, they're just working with what they've got. But I do think this looks really cool. Anytime you turn a big skeleton into an actual home or a base, like, it just looks pretty sick. And so that's why I had to put the colossal skeleton buildings at number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Spires of Arak buildings located in the Spires of Arak. And these are buildings that I always thought were really cool, with all the stained glass and the bird statues and the sun orbs and stuff like that. But they did always just feel very weird to me. Like, all these buildings that are up in the actual mountains and the spires, and again, compared to a lot of other World of Warcraft structures, it always felt like these were a little weird, you know? And even though I do think they're really cool, in fact, they're some of my favorite structures in Draenor, they do just feel weird. And I think what really amplifies that is they are just kind of up in the mountains, you know what I mean? In the mountains. They're just like up in these spires attached onto them, and it creates this very bizarre and kind of strange atmosphere for these buildings, because you don't normally see this type of thing anywhere else in the game, which makes it weird, which is why it's on this list. And so that's why the Spires of Arak buildings are number 5. 4. Number 4 is the Garvin's Reef building. And at first you look at this and you're like, wait, this isn't a building, this is a cave. But you go inside of the cave and lo and behold, there's a building inside that cave. there's a lemon behind that rock. Simpsons reference. And it's a bit of an odd looking building as well, so it's almost like a weird building inside of a weird location, making it such a weird building. And this place actually belongs to Captain Jonah Sterling, which is a Long John Silver reference, and Annie Bond, who's another pirate, wants you to go and kill Captain Jonah Sterling. And so for the quest, you go in here, you kill him, and then he's like, I'm getting out of here, you have to fight my bear. But then the bear actually eats him, and that's the whole quest. But another weird part about the building is if you go inside and look down, you'll see a prison area where there's 2 dead gnome skeletons in there. So that's also very weird. And really, this entire area is unlike anything I've seen in World of Warcraft, especially the building inside of a cave outside of maybe like the Caverns of Time. And so that's why I felt I had to put Garvin's Reef on the list. And that's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 are the Jinyu buildings located in the Jade Forest of the Mist of Pandaria. And these have always felt weird to me dating back to when I first played Mist of Pandaria. And I don't know what it is about them. I think it's because it almost feels like, you know how they used to put RTS Warcraft 3 buildings and stuff into World of Warcraft, and you could tell like, oh yeah, that's from Warcraft 3. Like some of the ziggurats and the floating things. It almost feels that way with these buildings. It feels like they were in an RTS game and they just got ripped and put into World of Warcraft. Now, I don't think that's bad per se. It always gave me these weird vibes compared to when you'd see other structures. Like when I go to some of the other zones like Kunlai Summit and see the temples, or when I go to, you know, just wherever, I'd be like, oh yeah, that feels like it fits in Pandaria. And that just always felt like the Jinyu buildings were just weird or odd. I don't know. I could never really put my finger on it. And again, like I've said with many of these, I think these buildings are actually really cool. I love the little lotuses on the buildings and the stone structure and the artwork on the walls and stuff. Like, I think they're awesome looking building. It's just, they just feel weird. I also just said they're awesome looking building, like a singular build. They're awesome looking building, but they are weird, and so that is why I put them at number 3. 2. Number 2 are the buildings of Zareth Mortis, specifically the half pyramid structures that are in this weird futuristic desert environment, and they have these like diamond symbols and orbs and like a bunch of gold plating on the stone. It's kind of surreal and weird, especially for World of Warcraft. And Zareth Mortis is one of those places that I hated, much like a lot of Shadowlands at the time, but now being able to fly around and go back and kill stuff in one shot, it's actually a lot more enjoyable. And I don't know if that's saying a lot, being like, yeah, now that I don't have to do the actual mechanics of the zone, it's really cool. But that's what got me to put this on the list, because I was going back and doing all this stuff so I could access the mount construction or whatever it's called. I don't know. But I was realizing while I was doing all these quests, like, yo, these are some weird buildings. I should put this on my weird building list, because I was kind of constructing it at the time. And I was like, there's really nothing like these in World of Warcraft. And I think part of that is due to the fact that Shadowlands almost feels a little more sci-fi than fantasy from my perspective. And the only other time I really got that was probably Legion. Maybe even a little Burning Crusade, but it still felt like Burning Crusade was very Warcraft. I felt like at times Legion almost felt like it was its own thing with like spaceships flying around and stuff. So maybe that's why I think this was Shadowlands. But either way, these are some weird buildings in World of Warcraft. So that's why they're number 2. 1. And number 1 are the Mantid buildings located in the Dread Wastes in the Mist of Pandaria. And these are the buildings that inspired me to make this pointless top 10, because I would always fly by these buildings in Pandaria and be like, they just feel so weird and like not even out of place, but just odd to be in World of Warcraft. And it's these bug people that have created these weird towers of insectoid windows and structures, and like, I don't know, it always felt very weird to me. And so I was like, I gotta put it on the list. And the more I thought about it, the more I was like, you know what, this is number 1 for me. These are just the weirdest buildings in World of Warcraft. Even this one where you can see the side of the tree, and this building has like 12 windows on it, and then there's another building with like a bunch of windows. It feels like I'm looking at a hotel, but it's been created by these Mantid creatures. And you know what? Maybe I'm underselling the Mantids. Maybe they are like amazing architects, and I'm just like making fun of their construction abilities. But you know what? It's just weird to me. And so that's why it's number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Enchanted Tiki Warriors, and the Enchanted Tiki Warriors are mobs found at Zolmaz Stronghold and Zoldrak. And these are quite literally floating tiki masks that carry a big spear. Well, I don't know if they're carrying it. They're kind of... Actually, I don't know how they use it. I guess their magic allows them to use the spear and be a mask. I have no idea how it works. We don't really need to know how it works. We just know that it does work. And it says here that Tiki Warriors actually use the Night Elf male animation. So for a second, I was like, hey, maybe that means they're actually invisible night elves behind these masks, you know what I mean? But after looking into it, it appears that the, quote, invisible man model used for all possessed or floating weapons all use the male night elf animations. For example, the unholy weapons in Naxxramas and the prince's axes. But the comment that says this is from 2009, so it's possible maybe after Wrath of the Lich King they stopped doing that, but who knows, maybe they're still using the night elf animations to this very day. And I'm sure we could figure it out right now, but I don't got time. I got pointless top 10 lists to make, and so that's why the Enchanted Tiki Warriors are number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Enthralled Mutants, and the Enthralled Mutants are orcs that are infested and located in Gorgrond. They also appear during the invasions of the Frostwall and Lunarfall garrisons. And it appears that these weird plant people are the ones doing this. It looks like they're kind of resurrecting stuff, so I would imagine that's what's happening, but listen, this was Draenor. All I remember from Draenor is sitting in my garrison, all right? But the thing is, even though these orcs are pretty unusual, I actually think they're really cool. It looks like they have half green, half kind of pale parts of their body. They've got little growths and corrupted, I don't know what that is, feathers or roots or wings on them. And they've got green leaves and stuff growing on their beard. And then their hands look like they've dipped it in red paint or something, or it's just corrupted and it's like it's moving up their arm and taking them over. Like, it actually looks really sick. And so with all that being said, these are pretty unusual mobs. You don't normally see weird mutated plant orcs walking around every day. And really, we've only seen it in Draenor. And so that's why the Enthralled Mutants are number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Wolfhawks, and the Wolfhawks are large carnivorous flying mammals which, as you might have guessed from the name, resemble a wolf and a hawk joined together. So they have the body of a wolf, but they have a bunch of feathers all over, and they have the ability to fly. But the weird thing that also makes them unusual is there's not many of them in the game. The ones that I'm showing you right now are the 3 named Wolfhawks. There's Kveldufnir, Mavarnir, and Varaudnir. There's no way I said all that correctly. And they live in the caves on the southern coast of the Eye of Azshara. And outside of those, the only other Wolfhawks in the game are either mounts that hunters can get, or a Wolfhawk that appears during the quest for the hunters to get said Wolfhawk mounts. And so yeah, to me it's just unusual that we get all this Wolfhawk stuff in Legion, and they're like, dude, the Wolfhawks, this is what hunters are all about. You gotta ride your Wolfhawk mount. There's some crazy Wolfhawks out there that are named, and then we just never see any again, like, ever. Like, where'd they go? Are they extinct? What happened? So that's why the Wolfhawks are number 8. 7. Number 7 is Guzrug the Tiny, and Guzrug is an ogre that's located in the Ring of Trials in Nagrand, the Draenor version. And Guzrug is called Guzrug the Tiny because he is quite literally half the size of a normal ogre. If you talk to him, he says, "You won't fight in the arena? Talk with Dexel, he puts the fights together. Me, I'm just here to start the match and clean up the bodies after." And so yeah, I put him on the list because it is unusual to see an ogre that is very small in the game. I don't think there's many other ogres in the game that are his size, but in fact, funnily enough, he is the exact same size as a male night elf, which makes this our second male night elf fact of the day. I think if we get 3, we get a hat trick. So I don't know if he's actually an NPC more than he is a mob, but I guess all NPCs are technically mobs, but not all mobs are NPCs, right? It's kind of like Turtle Tortoise. I don't know. It doesn't matter. It's my pointless list and I can do what I want. And so that's why Guzrug the Tiny is number 7. 6. Number 6 are the Botany or the Botany. I'm actually not sure. Whatever it is, it's based off of botany because it's the plant people we talked about earlier, right? You probably saw them and were like, man, they could have been on this list. Well, guess what? They are. And so the Botany are a race of intelligent bark-skinned humanoids that are native to Draenor. And it says here that they are notorious for their ability to infest humanoid races and turn them into shambling slaves. So that's why we had the orcs from earlier. It all makes sense now. And I wanted to put them on the list because they give me this uncanny valley vibe. I don't know if you get it as well, but when I look at them, it just feels odd. Like they don't feel like they fit in World of Warcraft. And I don't know if that's just a me thing. Like when I think of plants and corruption and stuff, I think of Quillboars, right? Like to me, Quillboars should be here doing all this. But at the same time, I don't dislike these guys. They just feel a little off. They feel a little unusual, you could say, because that's the name of the video. Yeah, that's why I wanted to put them on the list, and that's why the Botany are number 6. 5. Number 5 are the Bile Scourge, and the Bile Scourge are flying demons located all over Argus. And the Bile Scourge mostly feed on the corpses of victims of the Legion, but since the arrival of the Army of Light, they have also developed a taste for demon corpses as well. And so really, these guys are just like the vultures of Argus. Like, they go around looking for corpses and just feasting on them. But what I think is so cool is just their design. They've got these ridges on their back and these big decaying wings, and it almost looks like there's a skull that's trapped inside of a demon bat. You see that? Like, the skull is engulfed inside of the demon skin. And it kind of gives me a Zerg vibe from StarCraft. And there's actually quite a few unusual and weird mobs located all over Argus, especially some of the demons, but these were just some of the most unique ones I found. In fact, there is a pet you can get called Ear Seeker that is a Bile Scourge that you can get in the Antoran Wastes. I don't know why he's seeking out ears, but I don't want to know. And so that's why the Bile Scourge are number 5. 4. Number 4 is actually one of my favorite ones. It is the Crabby Relic Seekers located on the Isle of Dorn. And there's nothing special about these crabs from the looks of it. They're just normal crabs, but all of them are for some reason attacking these relics. They are just snipping away at the relics. They're not actually hitting them. They're like kind of far away from the relics, but they just keep attacking all these various relics all over the area, and I don't know why. There's no quests all around here, at least no quests that involve the crabs. And when I looked into it, there was no comments about these crabs. There's no, these crabs are an objective of blah, blah, blah. It's quite literally just, these are random crabs that are called relic seekers that are, I guess, trying to get these relics. And I'm like genuinely curious. This is a better plot line than Shadowlands. Why are these crabs trying to get these relics? Is it the old gods? Do they just find the relic shiny and they like shiny things, so they just start attacking them? Maybe they think shiny things are enemies? I have no idea, but I just want to know and I'm curious, and overall it's pretty unusual, and so that's why the Crabby Relic Seekers are number 4. 3. Number 3 are pretty much all of the mobs in Drustvar. Like, these are some extremely unusual mobs that you aren't really going to see in World of Warcraft. We have the Beastmen, which mostly resemble pigs, but there are some other animal hybrids here, and they are stitched together out of the corpses of humans and animals. And I actually talked about them in Pointless Top 10 creepy NPCs as well, and typically I try to not use things over and over on different lists because people will be like, oh, he already talked about this on a different list, but I thought these were unusual enough that they should make this list. And then there's also the curse-formed Ravagers, which are like the Wicker Men looking guys that look pretty unusual. In fact, there's also some curse-formed Ravager looking dogs. They're like weird Wicker Man dog creatures. I have no idea. Wicker dogs. But yeah, overall, this entire area is just filled with really unusual stuff, including some really unusual mobs. And so I had to include them all on the list. And that's why the unusual Beastmen, curse-formed Ravager, Drustvar mobs are number 3. 2. Number 2 are the Sloth Skin Nymphs located in Maldraxxus, and these are, I don't even think I remember these mobs. Like, obviously, because they're in Maldraxxus Shadowlands. Not many people remember much from Shadowlands or even just going back there or whatever, but these are just these weird bug creatures that are located in the, I guess it's like the mushroom swamp, because a sloth, I believe, is a swamp. I looked it up. It says a place of deep mud or mire. And it's just these really unusual bug creatures. They got little antennas that zap this little green, I don't know if it's energy or swamp juice or I don't know what it, acid. It's something. It always goes like, and it just dissipates after that. I don't know if this is them like getting some sort of energy inside of them out. I don't know if it just is a defense mechanism. I don't know what it is, but I haven't really seen anything like it in World of Warcraft. And they're like eating flies and they're running around with their bug kids. Like, I don't know what this place is, and I don't really want to find out, but it's pretty unusual, and so that's why the Sloth Skin Nymphs are number 2. 1. And number 1 are the Deep Striders, and these are without a doubt the most unusual mobs I've seen in World of Warcraft. They are these tall, very slender, deer-like beasts with extremely long legs, and they're located in the Zarlek Cavern and in the Ringing Deeps. And this Deep Strider is really cool. It's got these green and yellow glowing legs and tail, and it is a named Deep Strider called Alhaenir. There's actually a couple quests tied into this guy where you have to kill it and take its skull, but then its ghost starts attacking the town, and you have to kill all the slimes around it and get the skull out of the town. And this is all a reference to Princess Mononoke, if you've ever seen that. And if you haven't seen it, I'd suggest watching it, because it's It's a really good movie. But yeah, these are just really unusual mobs. Apparently, they're not even tameable by hunters due to technical issues, and they found that the extreme dimensions didn't work as a pet, which that sucks because I would love to have one of these things as a pet. That would be pretty cool. And it also says here that deep striders are internally nicknamed long dogs. So I think that the long dog deep striders are the most unusual mob in World of Warcraft, and so that's why I put them at number 1. 10. Number 10 is the Zeppelin crash in Northern Stranglethorn Vale, and I've always really enjoyed this one because I'm pretty sure there's no quest attached to it. I'm like very sure. There's probably gonna be somebody like, actually, there's a quest on the blah, blah, but I'm pretty sure there's nothing. I think it's just purely aesthetical, and it's really cool because you're going through the zone and you look up and you're just like, dude, there was a Zeppelin just flying through here trying to make it through the Stranglethorn jungle, just like, come on, we gotta go. And then boom, they just got caught in a tree and then it was all over, right? It's just, they're all wrapped up in this tree. And I don't know if this tree looked like this before or after this all happened because it looks much different from the other trees. So I don't know if the crash actually damaged the tree to the point where it doesn't really grow properly, or maybe it was the opposite. Maybe it was just a weird, tall, skinny tree on this hill in Stranglethorn and they didn't really plan for it or see it, and then boom, they just get hooked on it and they crash and it's all over. But no matter what the case is, this is just a weird, mysterious crash in Stranglethorn, and I always thought it was pretty cool, and so that's why the Stranglethorn Zeppelin crash is number 10. 9. Number 9 is this mysterious crash located up in the mountains of Mount Hyjal. And if you take a closer look, it looks like this gyrocopter just was flying too high and then just crashed into the mountain. And I was trying to look into it, like, was this guy just flying around and just getting too close to the world tree, and then he was like, oh, and tried to like get away from it and crash to a mountain? Maybe that was a theory. But I also found a topic from 2007. So this has actually been around since Classic WoW, right? It's just, I don't think people could really see it. And they said, I think that's the highest spot in World of Warcraft, and the plane was just marking it. And I mean, I guess that would make a lot of sense, because back then in Classic WoW, you couldn't fly around outside of the flight paths, and so this might have been the actual highest point in World of Warcraft. So that's actually really unfortunate from a lore perspective for whoever was flying this gyrocopter, right? Because if they would have crashed in a modern expansion, we would have found this guy in like 2 seconds, right? Someone is flying around like, oh, hey, you crashed. But back then, all you could do was fly around on flight paths. You couldn't even get to him. So maybe he would have lived if he would have crashed in a modern expansion. But either way, that's why the Mount Hyjal crash is number 9. 8. Number 8 are the crash recon planes located in the Borean Tundra's geyser fields. And these are a bit mysterious for a few reasons, one of which is I don't really know the actual reason these gnomes crashed. I tried looking into it, and unless I'm like completely oblivious, I can't really find a reason. Like, obviously these planes are doing recon missions, so maybe they got shot down or attacked or whatever it might be, but I think the most mysterious thing is that each one of these planes crashed in a geyser. Like, these planes are each located in a little geyser pool, and they're nowhere else. Like, it's just so weird because there's numerous planes and geysers, and there's wolves and stuff walking around and robots, but like none have crashed outside of the water. Like, there's no planes on the other parts of the land or in various other sections. Like, every single plane crashed in a geyser. And so yeah, even though this crash is actually a bit different from a lot of the other crashes on the list, since it does have some quests tied into it and it's not completely mysterious, but I do think there's still a lot of mysterious elements to it, and so that's why I decided to put it at number 8. 7. Number 7 is the Zeppelin crash located in the wetlands. In fact, it's pretty much the exact same Zeppelin that's in Stranglethorn Vale. Now, you might be saying, Crendor, if this is like the exact same Zeppelin crash as Stranglethorn Vale, why are you putting this one higher on the list than the Stranglethorn one? Good question. I decided to put this one higher because it feels more mysterious. Like, in Stranglethorn, it felt like it was flying through the jungle and it got caught on a tree and they were like, ah! But this one, they just crashed randomly into the mountains. And I mean, maybe we're in the wetlands, right? Maybe it was foggy or rainy and they couldn't really see well and they're like, ah, they just crashed up here. That's a possibility. Maybe they even just tried landing up here and they couldn't really land properly and then they crashed. Like, I have no idea, but it's harder to figure out what happened compared to Stranglethorn, where it was pretty obvious what happened. And so, because of those reasons, I just think it's more mysterious, and that's why I decided to put it at number 7. 6. Number 3 is this rocket car that crashed in Azshara. And this one is mysterious, but also a little obvious, because we obviously know there is the Rocket Way, and the Rocket Way is a long, twisting highway built by the Bilgewater Cartel as part of the expansion of Azshara. It consists of 5 stations going in arc around the Bay of Storms, allowing Horde characters rapid transportation in rideable rockets between the northern, western, and southern parts of Azshara. And so, I mean, it's pretty much just a goblin highway, right? And so this car was clearly going very fast and then flew off of the highway and then crashed into this mountain. And I'm surprised it didn't blow up even more, because there's just unlit explosives in the back. Like, I think this thing should have completely blown up, but hey, you know what? Who am I to judge goblin engineering? Maybe they coated them in some fireproof stuff. Like, I have no idea. That's another mystery as well. So either way, that's why the goblin rocket crash in Azshara is number 6. 5. Number 5 is the crash near K3 at Ricketts Folly in the Storm Peaks. And this is probably one of the less mysterious ones, just because we talked to Jeer Sparksocket at K3 and he says, "To the point, Ricketts asked me to put together some stronger landmines, but I'm running low on parts. Just west of town, you'll find the remains of our last rocket sled. Rickett got a little excited when she was fueling it, but I probably should have thought to not put the nozzle right over the exhaust. Live and learn, eh? There should be a good stock of spare parts scattered around the destroyed sled. Why don't you go ahead and chase off those scavengers and nab me some of that wreckage?" And I'm not gonna lie, this is one of the first crashes that I put on this list before I really knew all the information about it, and then I was like, oh, I guess it's not that mysterious, but I just really like this crash, so I want to put it on the list. And this is Pointless Top 10, so I can do whatever I want. I mean, we could say that it's a mystery as to how this happened, because we'll never really know. There's no video evidence or anything, right? We're just taking his word for it, but you can even see there's other little crashes all around and other spare parts, so there's probably other numerous crashes that have happened in this area, but this was probably the biggest one, and so that's why I put it at number 5. 4. Number 4 is this Zeppelin crash located in the mountains of Drustvar, and this one is really cool because it actually has a little bit of story to it. So some of the other Zeppelin crashes we've seen are just, you know, literally Zeppelin crashes, but this one, if you go inside of the Zeppelin, which you can do, you can see it looks like they tried to set up camp here. Maybe they used some of the supplies that they crash with. They have sleeping bags, but that's not the craziest part. The craziest part is we have a guy in his sleeping bag, but he has a sword next to his head, so I don't know if some altercation happened here and then they just cut his head off, or maybe he was like, I can't survive up here anymore. I'm in the freezing cold. I'm going to die. And then they just killed him or something. Because then we have these other 2 skeletons that are in their sleeping bags. And one has a note, which it doesn't actually let you read the note unless I'm completely oblivious and, you know, didn't click on it properly. And then there is a potion that has a big X on it. So if I had to put 2 and 2 together, I'd say maybe they drink this when they have lost all hope, right? And they're just like, hey, you know what? Nobody's coming for us. Let's just lay down and drink the death potion, right? So I don't know if this is a reference to something, because I know obviously there's plenty of references in this game, but either way, it's a mysterious crash in the mountains of Drustvar, and that's why it's number 4. 3. Number 3 is the Dunmoreau plane crash, and this crash is on the side of the mountain of Dunmoreau behind Ironforge facing the wetlands. And if I had to guess, I would say there was probably some crazy weather going on. Maybe it was a blizzard or a rainstorm or just something, right? I mean, we have literally Dunmoreau and wetlands, which I imagine could both have some crazy weather, and then they're probably trying to get to the Ironforge airfield, which is nearby, and then they're like, all right, and then they're just like, oh no, the mountain, and that would be my best guess, but obviously, you know, we have no idea what actually happened. What is weird is there's just a guard walking nearby, and he's just like patrolling the area, like, yep, that's a plane crash. And I guess he just walks past it every day, like, yeah, somebody should clean that up. I also wanted to mention another thing that I thought was a plane crash, but it turned out to just be a plane that's parked here with a bunch of torches all around, and then nobody's here. I was like, dude, who landed this plane? Where did they go? It's just this random plane over on the other side of Dunmoreau, and it's just parked here with nobody around. I haven't seen any quest about it. It was kind of weird. So, I mean, it's not really a crash, but I thought it was a crash, and then I just thought it was cool. So I put it on the list. And so that's why the Dunmoreau plane crash and parked plane are number 3. 2. Number 2 is this crash located up in the mountains between Howling Fjord and Grizzly Hills. And this was actually the crash that inspired this Pointless Top 10, because when I came across this, I was like, what happened here? There's like 2 gnome skeletons, and they've got like fish bones, and I think one was holding a vial of something. And then they were apparently riding this rocket car, or at least strapped to some sort of rocket vehicle. I actually don't know what this is. And I mean, if you know what this is, let me know. I don't know if it's a reference to something, or if there's something in the zone nearby that references this. Like, I have no idea. But this is it's such a weird thing to have like 3 gnome skeletons, fish bones, a vial of something, and then just like some weird rocket vehicle. Like, I have no idea. And you know what? That's what I love most about this. I love finding these things in the game where it's just like this random crash happened up in the mountains and I don't know what it is, but I stumbled across it and it's pretty cool. So that's why the gnome skeleton fish crash is number 2. 1. And number 1 is the rocket car crash in Classic Thousand Needles, as well as a couple other ones I found around here. And when I was thinking of mysterious crashes, my mind just always kept going back to this one. So I remember questing here back in vanilla WoW and always seeing this car up here being like, how did this happen, right? And I know how it happened, right? Because we're near the Mirage Raceway. Obviously, there's a bunch of cars racing, goblins and gnomes and stuff, and probably one just flew off the track and was like, whoa, and crashed into the wall. But I've always just wondered how that happened, right? It's more mysterious to me as like how that occurred, why he went flying up and like into the middle of the mountain. Like, I just think it's cool. I also think it's funny that even after the cataclysm, it's still there. You would think it would have gotten washed away or something, but nope, still there. And then you can see here in Classic Thousand Needles, there's an area that clearly had something happen, but there's no vehicles around or anything. So I guess they just hauled that vehicle off, but not the other one for some reason. Maybe because it was too high up and this one was on the ground. And then nearby to the west of Gadget's End, we have this other rocket vehicle that clearly tried to like slide down the mountain and then soar over the little hill, and then it just kind of exploded into the hill, and now it's just there, which I thought that was pretty funny. I would have loved to seen this actually happen, but I just imagine some goblins like, what if we launch this down the mountain and see what happens? And then they're like, uh-oh. But either way, I love all these desert crashes, and that's why I decided to put them at number 1. 10. Number 10 is the Orc Sea Pup located in the Silver Pine Forest. And so the Orc Sea Pup is part of a quest where you have to recover 5 sea dog crates. And so he goes with you down to the beach and you just keep gathering all these crates and you're like, hey, carry this, hey, carry this. And he's just like, this not so bad. Maybe a little heavy, but be okay. Maybe Captain carry 1 box too? Oh, heavy. No can see nothing. Oh, please kill me. Just giving me a hernia. Captain, what's a hernia? And no more, dis maximo, meat, dis too much. But then of course there's the line he's most well known for, which is, this hurt so bad, like the time the poop came out sideways. He also started like glitching out after a while and some of the crates were just gone. Either that or he was just using some crazy magic or something. But yeah, I think this guy's great. I really wanted to put him on the list. I contemplated putting him higher on the list and I was like, you know what? I like putting something kind of fun at number 10 and he's not too crazy or anything. So I thought he fit here perfectly. Plus, if somebody watches half this video and they're like, you know what? I don't really care about NPCs carrying stuff, at least they will always remember the Orc Sea Pup, and that's why he's number 10. 9. Number 9 are the Niffin, and the Niffin are located in the Zarlek Cavern in the Dragon Isles, and down in the city of Loam, they are carrying around various things such as rocks, crystals, as well as one that's carrying a broom, and he is chasing around this mouse creature with the broom. He just really wants to get rid of this mouse from the town. You can even see back there, he is going crazy trying to get this mouse. He's like, not today, mouse, you are getting out of here. But aside from that, there's the other ones, and they're just carrying around rocks and crystals, and there's nothing too special about them, but they just look kind of funny. They like have their little rock or their crystal, and they're just like, doo 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 doo, just carrying it around, having a good time. Well, I think they're having a good time. They might be having a terrible time for all I know, but there's even this one part where it shows them warping in with the rock, and you can actually see the rock, and then they warp in around it. It almost looks like they just warped in from a spaceship or something, so I thought that was pretty fun. But yeah, I like the Niffin. I think they're funny carrying around their stuff, and that's why they're number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Grain Hunter Hawks, and the Grain Hunter Hawks are located in the Valley of the Four Winds in Mist of Pandaria. And this is actually one of my favorite things in Mist of Pandaria. I always remember these birds just flying around carrying these bags of grain. It's not something you see in World of Warcraft very often. And so I was contemplating not putting this on the list because I'd already used it for pointless top 10 birds. But I was like, you know what? No, I like these birds. I like this weird, goofy situation. So I decided to put it on the list. And the reason this is all happening is because the Pandaren bought cheap grain. And so you talk to Grain Lord Kai and he's like, you buy one wrong grain and suddenly the world falls apart. Now we have a sprite infestation and migrating birds to boot. I was just trying to help us hit our quota to the Storm Stout Brewery. And now that I think about it, I should probably include the sprites as well because they're also carrying these bags of grain around. You can even see right there, that little sprite guy's got his bag of grain and he's just like, woo, 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 woo. So yeah, this is just a weird, goofy situation and I think it's pretty funny. So that's why I decided to put the Hawks and the sprites at number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Arena Laborers located at the Theater of Pain in Maldraxxus. And honestly, I always like finding weird things in Shadowlands because Shadowlands is clearly one of the least popular WoW expansions. in World of Warcraft history. And so not many people go back and revisit it. So when I can find something where I'm like, yo, this is pretty cool, it's always pretty neat because I don't think a lot of people know about it. And so these arena laborer guys are just these little ghoul gremlin guys, and they're picking up these, I don't know, they're like little crates or whatever they might be, and they have to walk halfway around, or I guess it'd be like a fourth of a way around the Arena of Pain. And they take them to this cart and they put it in the cart, and then they're like, all right, good. And then they're just like, whoa, 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 whoa. And they just like run away. And then there's another one, and he's just picking up these big pieces of armor or metal, and he's just walking back and forth in the more populated area. But I don't know. I really like these guys. They're kind of goofy and weird. They have like one big eye and one like non-existent eye. They have like crazy limbs that have been stitched together and stuff, and they're just doing their job, you know? They're just doing their grunt labor. And I'm pretty sure they have a toe on their back. I'm pretty sure that's a toe. Xalatash should recruit these guys immediately. So either way, that's why the arena laborers in Maldraxxus are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the NPCs carrying stuff in Borealis. And as you would expect, there are a ton of NPCs carrying stuff in Borealis, since it is like a port town. So everybody's just getting stuff ready to ship or getting stuff off of ships. And it's just a whole bunch of stuff. There's people carrying hay stacks or hay barrels. There's people carrying actual barrels. There's people carrying sacks of stuff. I don't know what's in that sack, but they're carrying a sack of something. There's people carrying giant logs, either to or from the lumber mill or the lumber yard. There's people carrying big carpets, or I think they're carpets. I don't know, but they look like carpets. And then there's just a guy that's carrying another guy. He's got him by the throat, and he's just like, and he's technically carrying him, so I decided to put it on the list. It's also kind of crazy. That dude's hand is gigantic. Like, look at that. His hand is like the size of this man's body. Like, that is insane. He's got like Donkey Kong hands. And honestly, there's probably even more people carrying stuff in Borealis. Like, I have no idea. There's so much going on in this town. It's hard to keep track of all of it. But that's why the Borealis NPCs are number 6. 5. Number 5 are the NPCs carrying stuff in Dazar'alor, as well as the NPCs carrying stuff at Prospectus Bay in Mechagon. And that's because they're kind of connected. You can go to Mechagon from Dazar'alor, so there's goblins carrying stuff from Dazar'alor to Prospectus Bay. And the NPCs here in Dazar'alor are carrying a bunch of stuff. They're carrying azurite crystals and barrels, and they're carrying boxes and crates. Although I don't really know the difference between a crate and a box. I guess they're kind of the same thing, but maybe I should figure that out at some point. But then the NPCs going from Dazar'alor to Prospectus Bay are carrying different things. They're carrying various cans. I don't know if that's like Kaja Cola. I would imagine it is. They also are carrying bombs, as well as other types of barrels or crates, but it definitely seems like the more dangerous of the two options. However, there's also a guy that I found in Dazar'alor carrying a thing of watermelon, or like a little box that has like watermelon and a jug on top of it. And then there's this guy chopping the watermelon, and at first you think like, oh, there's like watermelon juice on his knife, but it actually looks like there's blood on his knife. So this is probably just a reused asset they use, because they're like, it kind of looks like watermelon juice. But I love the fact that it's just like some troll chopping up fruit with a bloody knife, and you're just like, is that sanitary? And he's just like, don't question the process of chopping up my watermelon, all right? I've always used a bloody knife. So anyway, for all those reasons, that's why the Dazar'alor and Prospectus Bay NPCs are number 5. 4. Number 4, the Cromgar Peons. And the Cromgar Peons are orc peons located at the Windshear Mine in the Stone Talon Mountains. And they do menial labor under the orders of Overlord Cromgar, including transporting ore out of the mine. And I actually stumbled across this when I was just looking for pointless top 10 stuff, and I was like, dude, this is perfect for NPCs carrying stuff. Like, I didn't even know this existed. And so they'll say funny quotes like, why me have to carry big rock? They said less work under the new war chief. They promised change. Move or I tell the overseer that you pooped in the bucket. No can see nothing. Move out the way. Who that? Somebody there? Walking blindly through dark mine with big rock in arms. Much better than last job. Move! This rock heavy! Maybe put this rock down and say hello. Maybe. And so yeah, you know what? These guys are just trying to work. They're trying to make a living, and they're just carrying this ore. And like that one guy said, this is much better than his last job, so that's good. So either way, that's why the Cromgar Peons are number 4. 3. Number 3 is Smoot, and Smoot is a goblin running at very high speeds around the Bilgewater Harbor in Azshara. He was tasked with inventing an induction samaflange, but he subsequently went drunk with power and now runs around town with his samaflange held high while proclaiming how much he loves it. Adventurers need to tackle him unconscious and steal the samaflange from him for a quest. And so yeah, when you talk to Fleep, she's just like, now that he got his samaflange, he's drunk with power. He's running all over town like a goblin possessed. Smack him and snag my samaflange. But I really just love the fact that this goblin is carrying a samaflange above his head and just sprinting all over town. He's like a cat that's got the zoomies or something. He's just like sprinting all over, and he apparently has a quote. I didn't see him say it, but he yells out, "One samaflange to rule them all," which is obviously a Lord of the Rings reference. But yeah, Smoot is definitely one of the most unique NPCs in the game, and he's carrying his samaflange up above his head, so that's why Smoot is number 3. 2. Number 2 are the scroll beetle, the thread beetle, and the book beetle. And I love these beetles, man. They're just these little beetles that follow around. Well, actually, they're kind of big beetles, but they follow around their Nerubian masters, or they follow the orders to go where they're supposed to go, and they just carry stuff. So like I said, you have the thread beetle, which is a beetle that carries thread on his back. You have the scroll beetle, and he's carrying the scrolls. And then you have the book beetle, and he's carrying books. And these guys would have been perfect for pointless top 10 animals with jobs, but at least I'm able to put them on the list of NPCs carrying stuff, which now that I think about it, oh wait, I did the goat thing again. I did the like about it. I don't know why I do that sometimes. I just do the goat, it's not even a laugh. Well, I guess it's kind of a laugh. I don't know. It's that sometimes I just make a goat sound. I don't even remember what I was going to say. Oh yeah, I was just saying sometimes I make obscure top 10 lists compared to normal top 10 lists. Either way, I love these beetles. They're really cool. I love that they're all carrying different things. They're just having a good time carrying stuff, and I like that for them. So that's why these scroll, book, and thread beetles are number 2. 1. And number 1 is the Pandaren deckhand located at the Soggy's Gamble in the Dreadwastes. And when I was thinking of NPCs carrying stuff, I thought this is the most insane NPC I could think of that's carrying something in the entirety of World of Warcraft. I mean, this Pandaren is just carrying this fish that is like 5 times his size, like it's nothing. He's like jumping around with the fish. He's just walking around like doo 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 doo. And then he just puts it away. Like, where'd it go? He just like takes it out of a box like it's nothing, and then he puts it away like it's nothing. Granted, I guess we do have backpacks as players that we just put massive things into and they just disappear. So I don't know if there's some sort of weird magic system in World of Warcraft that allows you to shrink down massive items into little items you can put into a backpack, because I have no idea how people are fitting all their items into their bags, and I don't know how this guy's fitting this giant ass fish into these crates. Also, he just like walks through the door frame with the fish as well. You're probably like, how did he fit the fish through the door frame? Well, he just walked through it. I don't know how he's doing half the things he's doing, but it's pretty impressive. And so that's why the Pandaren deckhand is number 1. 10. Number 10 are the faces hidden in the trees all over the Deadwind Pass. And I'm sure a lot of people saw these trees when they had to go to Karazhan, since that's really one of the only things you go to the Deadwind Pass for. And when I look at these trees, I just wonder how this happened. Like, are there spirits that got trapped in these trees? Did the trees just grow like this and it's a coincidence? Like, I'm genuinely curious why these trees look the way that they do. In fact, I saw someone describe them as petrified, which they are quite literally petrified. I don't think they're going to be moving anywhere anytime soon. But one of the theories I was thinking up is maybe the trees were growing and they got so freaked out by everything happening around Karazhan that the trees themselves just became petrified, and then the faces kind of personified the emotions of the trees. Like, I think that would be pretty cool lore behind it, but they might just be some trees with some creepy faces on them. Like, I have no idea, but either way, they're pretty cool, and that's why they're number 10. 9. Number 9 are the faces on the totems in Ashenvale, and these are pretty freaky, actually. These are some of the weirdest looking faces on anything in the game. Like, you have the big mouth totems that are like, oh, and you got the smaller ones that are like, oh. Those are the sounds I imagine that they're making right now, but some of them have like fire and flames coming out of their mouth. They have fire in their eyes. I don't know if they're like possessed by something, like maybe some sort of fel energy is inside of them, but it would make sense. They're in an area that has a bunch of infernals walking around and demons, so that's my theory. And I know there's a lot of furbolgs in the area, so maybe the furbolgs are the ones that actually created these totems, and then they just became possessed by this fel energy. Like, I have no idea, but what I do know is these totems are freaky. Like, they got faces that are looking all morphed and weird, and there's like faces to the sides of the faces. Like, it's just weird, and so I had to put it on the list, and that's why the Ashenvale totems Our number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Happy Stone Talon trees, and the Happy Stone Talon trees are trees that have been cut down and they're just laying on the ground, but if you look at the actual rings in the trees, it looks like there's a happy face, and I remember seeing this as far back as I can remember, like 20 years ago, like we're going way back, and I remember always seeing it being like, hey, there's a happy face in those trees, but I was like, am I just seeing that? But I don't think I am. I think many other people have seen it, because there is that thing where you see faces in stuff. It's called pareidolia is what it's called, and it's a brain phenomenon in which a person sees or hears something significant in a random image or pattern. Pareidolia is what causes people to see faces in inanimate objects, such as the image of the Virgin Mary in a grilled cheese or the man in the moon. And so I guess this could fit into that category, but this feels a little too intentional, I would say. Like, you can literally see that there's the two eyes and the mouth. Although, you know what? Maybe that's exactly what I'm doing. I'm doing the pareidolia right now. I don't even know, but either way, I can clearly see it, and I feel like a lot of other people can, so that's why the happy face stone talon trees are number 8. 7. Number 7 are the Knoll Tents, and the Knoll Tents are located in Elwyn Forest, and I believe a few other places like Fairless and Westfall. They're, you know, pretty much anywhere there's knolls. And if you look closely at the Knoll Tents, you'll see that there is a human face that has been stitched together with a bunch of other fabric. I don't know if all the fabric is human skin, but there is definitely quite a bit of human skin in there. And you know what? The gnolls are just doing what humans do, right? Like, humans will go and kill animals and use animal skin. The gnolls are just killing humans and using human skin. So, I mean, it shouldn't surprise us too much that a fantasy race that is attacked by humans is going to kill humans and then make tents out of them, right? Also, funnily enough, this is the thing that sparked this entire pointless top 10. I remember looking for stuff and everyone's like, the Knoll Tents, the Knoll Tents. And if you search Knoll Tent faces, you'll find like 8,000 posts. Like, I think Knoll Tent faces is one of the most searched WoW Easter eggs. Everyone's like, did you know the tents are made out of faces? And there's like a billion people like, yes, we've seen it before. And so I'm telling it to you again, unless you've never heard of it, in which case the Knoll Tent faces are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the faces on the hands of the sea giants located in Nazjatar, and this might be another case of the pareidolia. All right, it sounds like a disease at this point. Like, you've got the pareidolia. I'm sorry, there's nothing we can do. You see faces. But for real, I genuinely see some sort of squid tentacle-faced man, kind of like Zoidberg from Futurama, right? I mean, if you look at his hand, you can see there's the two eyes that I think are supposed to be like little coral bits or whatever they are, and then you can kind of see the nose, and then his fingers are the tentacles. Like, to me, it's like clear as day. That's like all I can see. And sure, it might just be a coincidence that Blizzard, whoever designed this, designed it that way, but I feel like there had to be some intent. Like, they looked at that hand and they were like, you know what? I can make this kind of look like a squid man, right? I feel like they had to have had that. Otherwise, like, I feel like the corals could have been like a bit off, or there wouldn't have been a weird nose thing. Like, it feels like this is a squid man face, even if it is the pareidolia. And so that's why it's number 6. 5. Number 5 are the faces on the trees in Fellwood and in the Eastern Plaguelands. They're kind of similar in a way, and I believe this is another case of pareidolia, but I think this is a bit more obvious because, I mean, if you look up there, you see two eyes, you see the big mouth, he has like the dripping ooze in the mouth, but I can also see how it might just look like a tree that's been cut and infected at some point. You know what I mean? So it's not guaranteed that there's a face in this tree, but I feel like this is one of the more prevalent trees in World of Warcraft in terms of looking like it has a face. And then there's the Eastern Plaguelands trees, which don't really have all the green, glowy, fell-infected energy or whatever, but they just have a bunch of smoke coming out of their broken bark area, but you still have the two eyes and the mouth, so they pretty much are the same tree, but they're just not infected, but instead they're just super high, I guess. But either way, I think these are some of the most iconic trees in World of Warcraft, especially for having faces in them, and so that's why they're number 5. 4. Number 4 is perhaps one of the weirdest ones that I found, which is saying something, but it is a clam smoking a pipe underwater in the Dread Waste. That's right. If you go to the southern Dread Wastes, there's an area called Wreck of the Misthopper. And if you go just southwest of that, you will come across this random clam that is smoking a pipe. And he's even got little bubbles coming out of the pipe that he's smoking. And then for eyes, he has 2 more clams with pearls inside of them. And then they just kind of open up randomly. And then one will open and the other will open. And it's such a random thing that I didn't expect to find when looking for faces in World of Warcraft. But I mean, it's here. It's a big clam underwater, and it's a face. I don't know. That's really all there is to it. There's no crazy lore behind it. Nothing special. It's a clam underwater smoking a pipe. He's having a great time, I imagine. He'll keep having a great time. So that's why the clam underwater smoking a pipe is number 4. 3. Number 3 is a face that's located on the Goblin Shredders in World of Warcraft, and it's a face from another Blizzard franchise. It's Sarah Kerrigan from StarCraft. And if you look into the cockpit of a Shredder, you can see an image depicting an infested Sarah Kerrigan from StarCraft on the screen. In fact, the new Shredder model introduced in Mist of Pandaria with the Sky Golem mount features a similar thing where Kerrigan is from StarCraft 2 rather than the original StarCraft. So they kept on with it. They could have been like, hey, you know what? Let's give them an actual computer program that they can use. But you know what? They're goblins. They probably don't look at it anyway. In fact, you know what? Maybe Kerrigan's like actually giving them orders. She's like, go over there, chop that tree. And the goblin's like, all right, okay, I'll do it. Although I don't know how good the Kerrigan Shredder computer system is, because according to Bixie Buzzsaw, who works on Shredders as an engineer, she says Shredders have a new operating system that crashes every 5 minutes. So it must not be that good. But hey, maybe that's the lengths they have to go to get Kerrigan on that Shredder screen. So anyway, that's why the Kerrigan Shredders are number 3. 2. Number 2 are the Quillbore tent faces. That's right, you thought we were done with the Knoll tents. No, we got the Quillbores. And here's the thing, everybody talks about the Knoll tents being like there's human faces, but the Quillbores are just as messed up, all right? The Quillbores have an undead face sewn into their tents. Like, look at that. That undead face is really weird. Honestly, I think it's creepier than the human face in the Knoll tents. And I don't know why they specifically targeted undead faces for all their tents. Like, you would think they would use Tauren or something, right? Because there's so many Quillbore and Tauren areas, and I don't know, I just don't get it. Maybe they know something we don't. Maybe they're like, oh, the undead have very good structurability within their skin. Like, I don't know what they're doing. I mean, it is quite possible that for the other fabric around the undead face, they are using Tauren skin or hide or whatever you want to call it. That's a possibility. Or they're using leather they randomly found. Like, I don't know, but either way, they just really love using undead faces for all their tents, and nobody talks about it enough. They just keep talking about the gnolls. And so that's why the undead face in the Quillbore tents are number 2. 1. And number 1 is the Deep Run Clam. That's right, not the Deep Run Tram, the Deep Run Clam, because you go into the Deep Run Tram and you find that clam that's in the big tank of fish and water and whatever else, right? The big aquarium thing. And if you stop and look inside the clam, you will see 2 faces that are looking at each other that are just, I believe, the same face, same image, and they're just staring at each other. They're like mirrored. And I don't know what this is or who it is. I found one thread on Reddit talking about it, and nobody there could even figure it out. People were looking at the file name. People were looking at old pictures of like Chris Metzen. This actually reminds me more of Taryn Gregory, who I actually fished with back in 2016, and he is the lead cinematic narrative designer for World of Warcraft, and he's been working there for as long as I can remember. But he's the person I thought of when I saw that, with the glasses and similar style beard and hair. But I mean, outside of that, I don't know why they would put him in a clam in the Deep Run Tram, unless it's like some weird inside joke thing that happened. I feel like I need to ask this the next time I get to interview Blizzard employees or something, but they're probably not even gonna know. So either way, I had to put this at number 1 because it's just a mystery and it's weird. So that's why the Deep Run Clam is number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Roaster Rats, and the Roaster Rats are located in the Legion Dalaran sewers. And these Roaster Rats are being used to make some, all natural coffee, if you will. So you can see here that they are all lined up and they are being milked of sorts, although it's not really milking. It's like, it looks like they're being shocked, and then they're like, you know. There's also one that's just stuck down there. I don't know if anybody's gonna help him out, but he's just trapped down there. I don't even know how he's alive. He should have drowned by now. But yeah, all the other rats around here just running around. Some are like glitching out on top of each other. Some are running into the wall and disappearing. Some are like stacked up on top of each other. Some are just chilling by the cages. Like there's so much going on down here in terms of food safety issues. But I mean, it is the Dalaran sewers. I don't know if I'd ever get Dalaran sewer coffee and be like, man, I can't wait to drink this. Like, I'd probably just be skeptical of it. But this is one thing that I think either people forgot about or never even knew existed. So that's why the Dalaran Roaster Rats our number 10. 9. Number 9 is this large sea monster located underwater off the coast of the Azure Span. And what's so cool about this to me is there is somebody that's like caught on the tooth of this monster. So I don't know if this is a sea monster or a dragon or whatever this might be. Part of me thought it was a dragon at first, but then I was like, maybe it's just a sea monster. I have no idea, but it looks like it tried to bite into somebody and then they got trapped in its tooth or mouth. And then I guess they both died and went into the water, and then they've just been in here for I don't know how long. But I actually do have a pointless top 10 weird things underwater, which is how I came across this in the first place. And so it is possible this is just some random doodad that Blizzard put underwater to add a little spice or character to the underwater exploration, which is usually just a bunch of nothing, right? And trust me, there are many of those because I've seen plenty of repeat stuff underwater when I was exploring. But I don't know, something about this one just really caught my attention. How did he get impaled? Why is this monster down here? Was it above water and then it went below water? Has it always been below water? Like, there's a story here and I don't think we're ever gonna know it. And that's kind of cool. And so that's why it's number 9. 8. Number 8 is this weird ass goblin machine that I found in Azshara, and it genuinely might be one of the most insane inventions I've ever seen in World of Warcraft. Number 1, there is a chicken that is getting punched and then eggs are coming out of it. All right, I don't know how that works, but it's just some boxing glove comes out, just pop, just hits the chicken, and then an egg comes out. And then there's like a carrot that gets used up, and then there's I thought it was a mug, but I think it's a salt or pepper shaker, and it's shaking it into the tube. I don't know what this thing is even accomplishing. Like, I don't know what's going on here, but maybe somebody in the comments knows. Like, nothing comes out of this machine, right? And it's just putting an egg and carrot together. Like, what's that even make? Knowing Blizzard, maybe it's some sort of pop culture reference? I don't know, but it's here. It exists. So it's one of the weirdest things I've ever seen, and I didn't really know about it until I randomly stumbled across it. So that's why the carrot egg goblin machine is number 8. 7. Number 7 are the hidden ruins of Golvar, and Golvar is a Drust ruin located inside a cave system in northern Drustvar, only accessible through a tunnel entrance, which is hidden behind the Forgotten Lodge. And so this one might be a little more Horde-centric, because there are some Alliance quests here, so I think a lot of Alliance people have come across this place, but as somebody who primarily plays Horde, I was blown away that this existed. It says here that it is full of seemingly inactive Drust revenants, and a small chamber deep inside the ruins served as the ancient headquarters of the Order of Embers, and the Tome of Silver and Ash is hidden here. Knowledge of Golvar and its secret entrance has been passed down through House Waycrest for thousands of years. And so yeah, I kind of stumbled across this while I was randomly looking for stuff for Pointless Top 10, and I mean, this is a great roleplay location. It's a cool spot if you want to come chill here. I doubt many people are doing BFA quests or just running around BFA in general, and I'm just somebody that's a sucker for finding secret caves, so that's why Golvar is number 7. 6. Number 6 is the secret location located at Fizzle and Pozik's speed barge in Thousand Needles. And the only information I could really find on this place is on the WoW wiki, which says that an underwater maintenance room accessed from below the barge, a hangout spot with 3 chairs, can be found. Maui's chair belonging to Explorer Maui, Twin's chair belonging to Prospector Brewer, and finally Aya's chair, seemingly belonging to a goblin, judging by the chair and nearby objects. And so you actually access this room by swimming up into where the anchor comes out. It kind of reminds me of Rusty Bucket Bay from Banjo-Kazooie. And I have no idea how some of this stuff hasn't just floated away. There's like Chinese food, cups, there's calendars, there's just a whole bunch of stuff that you're like, man, how does this stuff just stay where it is underwater? Which I guess might just be part of the magic of World of Warcraft, but then there's also plenty of stuff that does float away in the water. So I have no idea, but it's cool to find this secret underwater room on this boat. So that's why I decided to put it at number 6. 5. Number 5 is a dead time-lost proto-drake that's located up in the mountains of Draenor Nagrand. And this is one of those things that I think I ran into back in actual Draenor when I played it like a decade ago and then forgot it existed entirely, but it's weird that there's this random time-lost proto-drake corpse that never despawns. It's always there. And I guess it's probably an Easter egg to the fact that we traveled back in time in Draenor, right? So they just put it up there as like a, hey, it's time lost, like it got lost in time. right? Going back to Draenor. I guess that's the only thing I could think of, unless there's some other random reason, but I'm pretty sure that's what it is. But the Time Lost Proto Drake is a mount that I'm still trying to get. There's been 2 times where I've gotten really close. One, I saw him die like right in front of me. I was like, are you kidding me? And then 2 other times I saw his corpse. So I was like, you gotta be kidding me. I'm sure one day I'll just randomly stumble across it and get the mount and it'll all work out, right? I'm sure it'll happen. It won't, but there's the corpse of this one always here, so that's why the Draenor Time Lost Proto Drake is number 5. 4. Number 4 is actually 2 things, both related to RFD. So this one a lot of people might know, but the actual entrance to RFD is shaped like the head of Agamagon, the boar god. And I was gonna say I should do a top 10 dungeon entrances, but I forgot that I actually did that, but it was like 2 years ago. I guess I could make a part 2. But the actual thing I wanted to put here is this crazy forge slash furnace thing that's shaped like a boar. And it looks like he's holding 2 bowls that are steaming. I don't know if that's like an incense or spiritual type of thing. And he's got these 2 big cannon looking things on the side. I don't know what they are. And then he's got his large tusks, and you've got his, chest on display there. And then there's the firewood underneath him. It's just, I've always just thought this was one of the coolest things that they've designed, especially in classic WoW. Like, I think it's so cool in RFD. And a lot of times I don't even think people notice it because they're just running around doing the boss fights and everything. But if you actually look over here and look up and analyze this crazy Quillbore furnace forge thing, it's pretty cool. And so that's why I decided to put it at number 4. 3. Number 3 are the Caverns of Consumption, and the Caverns of Consumption are a secret area on the northernmost point of the coast of Winterspring, and this is actually where the Sun Darter hatchling pet can be found by those who can bypass the puzzles within. And so I personally do not have the Sun Darter hatchling. I might get it after this, but there's 16 different steps to acquire the Sun Darter hatchling, which was added in Legion. And so as you can see here, if you do not know any of these steps and you randomly show up here, you will be silenced, and there's this big wall of fire that you can't get past. And obviously once you put everything together and figure out the secrets, you're able to get past this and not be silenced. But the reason I put this so high up on the list is this feels like such a surreal area to me. You know what I mean? Like, we have Winterspring and there's Moonglade over there, and this feels like the edge of Kalimdor, right? But then all of a sudden you go past it a little bit and there's all these trees that are green and vibrant, and then you just have this random cave. Like, it kind of just throws me off, and I love that. And that's why the Winterspring Caverns of Consumption are number 3. 2. Number 2 is the Duck Cave, and the Duck Cave is an unnamed cave in the upper frostlands of the Azure Span, guarded by a duck, and mages can actually blink through the wall, where you will be met by numerous other ducks and the one and only Millhouse and Maleficent Manastorm. And so I'm sure in Dragonflight, plenty of people saw this and were like, why is this duck standing up here in front of a bunch of rocks? Whatever. But like I said, it turns out if you're a mage, you can blink through and you'll gain access to the Duck Cave, where you learn Polymorph Duck, and you get to talk to Millhouse Manastorm, who says, yeah, you found my super secret lair. You want a medal or something? I'd watch where I step if I were you. These ducks are real slobs. And then on the other side, you have Maleficent Manastorm, who is creating some sort of robot duck army. And when you ask Millhouse about it, he's just like, who knows? Your guess is as good as mine, but it's probably something to do with robots, like always. And so yeah, this place really has everything. It's got ducks, it's got Polymorph Duck, it's got Millhouse and Maleficent Manastorm, it's got robot ducks, and it's just hidden away in the Azure Span. So for all those reasons, that's why I had to put it at number 2. 1. And number 1 is in Darkshire and Westfall, and this one actually blew my mind. I've never seen this or heard about this ever. So in Westfall, if you go outside the town hall in Moonbrook, you will find a sign, and it says Westfall, and there's a skull with a sword in it. And then if you go to Darkshire, you'll see a sign when you're entering Darkshire that just says Darkshire, and you might be like, Crendor, what's so weird about that? Well, these are the only 2 instances that I know of that use the English language in World of Warcraft. Because, I mean, think about it. Anytime you find anything in the game with some sort of lettering or spelling, it's usually in a weird language with weird symbols or runic shapes and all that type of stuff, right? there's never really anything in English. Now, there are things that have English lettering, like there's the license plate that says Pwn. There's like something that says WoW. I think the Elite Taran Chieftain have ETC written on it on their drum, right? But aside from that, like abbreviations, there's no actual English words. And so one theory that I saw is they started designing the game, because these are some old zones, right? And they put that in, and then they decided to stop using the English language in the game, but they never really changed this. So that's probably the most likely theory I read, but either way, it's pretty crazy. And so that's why I decided to put it at number 1. 10. Number 10 are the Plague Spreaders, and the Plague Spreaders are these small necropolis-like buildings located in Zuldrak that are flying around and spreading the plague. And this is just a weird mob because you wouldn't expect a small building to be considered a mob. Like, you would almost consider it to just be part of the environment or like something that's part of a quest, but it is genuinely a mob. Like, when you look on Wowhead, there's people saying that they death gripped it to the ground, they can fear them. People used to farm their throwing skill on these. And then on top of all that, they can't actually attack. They just spread the plague. They can't attack at all. And so, yeah, it's just, these are just a really weird mob because it's like, it's literally just a small building spreading the plague. Like, when I first saw these, I was like, is that even a mob? And then I realized that you can click on it, you can attack it, and it's genuinely a mob. And I don't even remember these from Wrath of the Lich King, to be honest. Like, I must have just completely glanced over this area or whatever, but when I found this, I was like, this has to be on the list. And so that's why the Plague Spreaders are number 10. 9. Number 9 are King Soggle and King Wurgle, which are 2 Gorloks that are located in the Waking Shores, riding a wind elemental and a water elemental. Well, he's not really riding the water elemental, he's kind of just stuck in there. And they're part of a quest called a Sledgehammer of a Solution. And this quest says, I fear this elemental bombardment won't stop until we've dealt with the Gorloks. If I were Tharu and thinking actionably, I would go straight for their leaders. Without anyone to rally around, the fighting should dissipate and no longer threaten the wetlands. And not only are these 2 weird mobs, because we have the 2 King Gorloks trying to use elementals for war, but it's just chaos all over, right? Like, the entire situation is weird. Like, how did Gorloks even just start summoning these elementals to begin with, and the area is going crazy and nature's getting involved? But quest chain aside, I think it's just really funny to have 2 Gorloks that are, you know, riding an air elemental and then stuck inside of a water elemental. It's really weird, but I think it's funny as well. So I had to put them on the list. So that's why King Wurgle and King Soggle are number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Ogre Magi in the Abyssal Depths. And these Ogre Magi are channeling these big beams of energy directed at these big tentacles. And these Ogre Magi are actually part of a quest involving Lagorek. And Lagorek is a creature referred to as an ancient and a god by individuals at the Promontory Point located in the Abyssal Depths. And the ancient creature is slowly dying from the Twilight Hammer's activities inside. And so it says here that in the Undershell, which is where we are, the Ogre Magi are performing a ritual to connect him with a powerful creature far below. So I think they're trying to like connect him with an old god like Nazoth or something. I don't remember which old god's here or if there is one, but I think that's what's happening. But yeah, I put this on the list. I even wrote it way back in the day. I didn't know what to categorize it as, so I wrote it down in my pointless top 10 big document of stuff as tentacle ogres. And then I was like, tentacle ogres? When did I write this down? And I went and found them and I was like, oh yeah. And I was like, you know what? These are pretty weird mobs, even though they themselves aren't like that weird, but I feel like the whole situation is weird. So that's why the tentacle ogre mages are number 8. 7. Number 7 are the satyrs riding Terrorfiend bats and throwing bombs around Valshara. And so satyrs, in relation to Legion here, it says, with their master Xavius returned once again, satyrs broke out of their imprisonment under Sheldrasil, and they had overrun both Valshara and the Emerald Dream as they spread the corruption of the Emerald Nightmare for Xavius, helping the Burning Legion along the way. Now, I've always thought that satyrs themselves are kind of weird mobs. So that's one of the reasons I wanted to put them on the list. I know satyrs are an actual, like, mythological thing that Blizzard just took and put into World of Warcraft, right? But I just love the fact that these satyrs are riding on bats throwing bombs. Like, it's such a weird combination. Like, number one, they're riding bats around, which is already, you know, kind of wacky. Satyrs riding bats. That's not really what I think of when I think of satyrs. And then on top of that, they're just like throwing bombs down, like these glowing red bombs. So like, I don't know. It's a really weird mob combination to me, if anything. I think that's what I felt is so weird about it. So I was like, you know what? I'm going to put it on the list. It's not going to be high up on the list, but I want it to be on the list. And that's why the satyrs riding Terrorfiend bats throwing bombs are number 7. 6. Number 6 are the Cobus, and the Cobus are a vicious amphibious race resembling large humanoid anglerfish that live deep in the undersea in Khazalgar. And the Cobus are actually distant relatives of the Jinyu and the Murlocs, and they pose a constant threat to the Halofal Arathi emerging from the undercity, or undersea. I almost said undercity. They're coming from the undercity, everybody. To raid settlements in Halofal to eat or reanimate the dead, because apparently the Cobus actually have necromancers, which I did not expect from these like anglerfish people. And so yeah, I don't know, man. These are just some weird looking mobs, because it's like you can see the Jinyu and the Murloc vibes going on, but they really feel like they're from way down in the depths of the ocean. You know how whenever we see science and stuff that's like, we found some crazy fish down in the depths of the ocean, it's like some really weird looking fish. That's definitely the vibe that I get from these guys. And like they're eating other things, they're doing necromancy, they're really weird. And so I was like, dude, I gotta put these on the list. And that's why the Cobus are number 6. 5. Number 5 are Spurt, Nanook, and Slushy. And Spurt, Nanook, and Slushy are prisoners on this random island in Azuna where they keep getting shocked by a Murloc. And I tried to find out more about this entire situation, because like this is a really weird situation in general, right? There's just this random island of Murlocs that have these prisoners that are named, and I found one post on Wowhead that said this is almost certainly a reference to the 1922 documentary Nanook of the North. I've never seen or heard of Nanook of the North, so it's possible this is a reference to that. But to me, this is more of just a weird situation in general, right? You have like a Tuskar, a penguin, and a Murloc. A Tuskar, a penguin, and a Murloc walk into a bar, right? This is like a joke scenario. And then you've got all the Murlocs all around. It's just like, I don't know, man. And then there's the weird Murloc that keeps zapping everybody as well. This is more about the entire situation being weird. And so I wanted to put this on the list. I actually wanted to put this on a few lists and I didn't know where to put it, but it felt like it fit on this one. And so that's why Nanook, Spurt, and Slushy are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Witches of Drustvar, and the Witches of the Heartsbane Coven are humans from Drustvar who have been empowered by the Drust. They are led by the matrons, and the death magic they wield has contorted their bodies. When a witch grows powerful enough, they actually slit their own throats to ascend. So yeah, that's pretty wild. Also, if you don't know what the Drust is, the Drust were a population of Vrykul who inhabited the island of Kulturas before the first humans arrived there. They wielded powerful death magic and mainly lived in Drustvar. And when you look at these witches, like they really are weird. And I love the fact that there's lore behind it, right? Like the death magic has contorted their bodies so they're all, you know, creepy and weird looking. Like there actually is a reason to why they look like this. And listen, when I made this list, I already knew there was going to be another mob from Drustvar, because when I did unusual mobs in World of Warcraft and creepy mobs in World of Warcraft, they both had Drustvar stuff on it. And I was like, there's going to be more, right? There's always weird stuff or unusual stuff or creepy stuff in Drustvar. And I actually think that's why Drustvar is one of the coolest zones in World of Warcraft. It's just a very unique, cool zone. So either way, that's why the Witches of Drustvar are number 4. 3. Number 3 are the Lost Ones, and the Lost Ones are these highly mutated and deformed Draenei located in the Swamp of Sorrows. And you do have to feel a bit bad for them, because it says here that the Lost Ones were devolved further than the Broken, and the Broken were a devolved subrace of Draenei who live in Outland, and they were mutated after being exposed to the fell energies wielded by Orc Warlocks. However, the Lost Ones have devolved even further than the Broken, and many have been reduced to savage and primitive beasts. It says here that it's hinted that the name was given to them by the Draenei in Outland long before they came to Azeroth, because it was believed that their minds had already become lost. Now, with all that being said, and feeling bad for them, these guys really are weird. Like, they've got these glowing yellow eyes, they've got this kind of weird face shape that the main thing is the teeth, right? When you look at these guys, it is just these massive teeth that are really long up top, and then the bottom ones are really short. It's freaky, man. Like, it looks like a horror movie. But overall, these are some weird mobs, and that's why they're number 3. 2. Number 2 are the Pygmies, and the Pygmies are a race of small, primitive humanoids found on the Lost Isles and in Uldum, and according to Bran Bronzebeard, Pygmies share an unknown common ancestor with goblins. And I don't know what it is, Pygmies have always just been really weird to me, and it's actually interesting because it says here that during Cataclysm Alpha and Beta, Uldum was initially inhabited by sand gnomes, which were literally just like gnomes, but then they were replaced by pygmies later in development. Also, a cool pygmy fact is that the pygmy animation skeleton was later used for Grummels, Stewards, Jaster Gallywix, and Harlan Sweet. But yeah, they just kind of walk around. They're these tiny little goblin human creatures, and maybe, you know what, I think that's why I kind of like them, is because they are just a mixture of goblins and humans. And you know what, they almost remind me a little bit of trogs as well. Maybe that's their common ancestor, is trogs. And you know, with all that being said, if they made pygmies a playable race, I would make a pygmy. I straight up would. And you know what, they already ride turtles and hyenas apparently, so there you go, they've already got built-in mounts, so that's why the pygmies are number 2. And number 1 are trogs. And just since the beginning of World of Warcraft, I've always been kind of weirded out by trogs. Like, they just look creepy, they're weird, and trogs are a race of brutish cave-dwelling humanoids, originally descendants of the first type of Titan-forged manufactured by the Forge of Wills. Known for their low intelligence, trogs often come into conflict with their distant dwarven relatives. And we actually got some fun trog facts here, well, you know, as fun as it can be. Trogs are a reference to the word troglodyte, meaning caveman, and Bran Bronzebeard theorized that kobolds actually evolved from trogs. And they did actually update the trog model in retail World of Warcraft, but I decided to just mainly use the classic World of Warcraft trogs, because that's the ones I think of when I think of trogs. Like the low polygon, hair all over, warts and boils growing on their bodies. Like, I don't know, man. In the history of World of Warcraft, these have always just been the weirdest mobs to me, and so that's why trogs are number 1. 10. Number 10 is Victor Ebenfall, and Victor is a Worgen druid in the first aid place in Dalaran, and he's just chilling in a bathtub. You walk in here and you look around and you're like, what? Is that a sea lion in the bathtub? But apparently he can't shapeshift out of aquatic form. If you talk to him, he says, "What are you looking at? Ain't you ever seen a sea lion before?" And you go, "Not like this." And he goes, "Yes, I'm a druid, and well, I'm kind of stuck like this for a while. I was patrolling the sea around the broken shore when an infernal crashed down into the water right on top of me. The blast was so strong it instantly knocked me unconscious. When I woke up, I was here in the care of the nurses. They say after a few days I should have the strength to shift back, but in the meantime, I'm stuck in this contraption to keep me from drying out. Do me a favor and don't mention this to any of the other druids. They'll never let me live it down." So yeah, that's pretty much it. He's just a druid stuck in aquatic form in a bathtub. And great shower curtains there, by the way. Very good. And that's number 10. 9. Number 9 is Arako the Hunter, and Arako is an orc hunter down in Vazgir just hunting fish. And for some reason, everything's going real fast down here. I don't know why. I don't know if we've gone like deep enough to where the laws of physics change, but something's going on. But I think it's funny because Arako kind of reminds me of Billy, the my WoW Machinima orc hunter. But there's a quest where a guy's like, "Hey, can you go find Arako? He seems to be missing and it's weird to send someone to go find them, but I'm running out of options." And you go find Arako and he is just hunting fish. And the reason for this is that his pet wolf got eaten by an eel and he won't go anywhere until she is safe. He also has the quote of, "Shooting fish in a barrel is easy. Shooting fish in an ocean is a little harder." So yeah, that's just Arako. You know, he's definitely not your run-of-the-mill NPC. This guy was pretty weird, and I haven't seen too much about him. You know, maybe it's because nobody really quests in Vazgir that often, but I think he definitely deserves to be on the list, and that's why he's number 9. 8. Number 8 is Silvermoon Harry, and Silvermoon Harry is a pirate who can be found at Scalawag Point, and he has an obsession with blood elves. It is really weird. So Alanya is his girlfriend, and if you talk to her, she says, "This is the only way Harry will ever talk to me. I have to keep this stupid mask on all the time." Which, listen, if that was a real life thing, you got to get out of there. That's a big red flag. And then Silvermoon Harry has to repay his debt, which is why you go talk to him, and he tries to fight you, and he's like, "Do not test me, scurvy dog. I'm trained in the ways of the Blood Knights." Which, if you don't know what a Blood Knight is, it's a Blood Elf Paladin, pretty much. And then he talks about how Blood Elf treasures, unlike any other, it's not just the gold or the silk or the gems used as materials. Sindori craftsmanship is valuable in and of itself. And so after that, you're like, all right, well, that guy was weird, but I'm never going to see him again. But then he reappears in Battle for Azeroth, where Harry is hired by the Alliance to help establish Fort Victory in Nazmir on Zandalar, and he's tricked into believing he'd be working with Blood Elves, but instead it was Blood Trolls. So overall, this guy's weird as shit. That's why he's number 8. 7. Number 7 is Idej the Wise, and Idej is a gnome mage in Drustvar, and he just lives randomly in the middle of nowhere in the mountains. I remember finding this guy being like, wait, who is this? Why haven't I seen this before? And I guess because I haven't really quested much in Drustvar, but he constantly just walks around a campfire talking to Taff, pausing to unsuccessfully test a fire spell on it. And once you kill him, you can actually get the Taff the Pig quest, which gives you Taff the Pig as a pet. So if you haven't gotten that yet, there you go. I just got you a free pet. And so while researching this, I was like, this is so weird. What does this even mean? So I found on Wowhead, somebody commented named Idej the Wise, and they said, hey, World of Warcraft fans, a message to all the players who found Idej the Wise and his little piglet friend Taff. I would like to thank everybody. 6 years ago, my brother and I came up for the concept for Idej the Wise one afternoon at Blizzard Studios. His brother works for Blizzard, and the idea was Idej was going to be a very small in stature with a bit of a punch fire mage who likes to drink and cast mixed up spells. Idej is actually Jedi, but spelled backwards. And Idej is actually an old modified AD&D character they created 38 years ago in 1985. And they are lucky to have him put in the expansion of the game back when I guess BFA was the expansion. So that was it. That's pretty much the lore of Idej. You can read more about him if you go over there and read about him or just research it. But I just think he's weird, right? He's just this random gnome mage in the mountains. He's got a bunch of animals all around. There's like a raccoon in his bed. It's just like, what's going on over here? But I love it. I think it's, you know, it kind of reminds me of in the Hobbit, the Radagast the Brown a little bit, just having all these animals in his house and stuff. Although he is trying to like cast spells on them instead of actually saving them or whatever. But overall, he's pretty weird, and that's why he's number 7. 6. Number 6 is Gordon McKellar, the assistant confetti cannon operator in Stormwind. And you know, at first you're like, okay, whatever. He's just some random guy working on fireworks. But then he starts swimming around. And that is really what pushed it over the edge for me. Like at first I was like, all right, you know, this guy is a little weird. But then you see him start swimming around. And it's like, there's so many questions. How does he do this, right? Like, does he have some sort of evil powers? And he might actually, because he is here because he drops the Doomsayer robes. And you disguise yourself as a Doomsayer for an hour. It's a toy that you can get. There's actually another version for the Horde, and that would be Charles Ghastly, an undead, but I don't think that guy swims around, so he's definitely not as weird. So the fact that he's swimming around is what really bothers me, right? It's just like, how is he doing it? I'm genuinely interested in how he is able to swim around, because I feel like I haven't seen really anybody else in the history of World of Warcraft just swimming around like they're in space. You know what I mean? So for that reason alone, I felt he had to be on the list, and that's why he's number 6. 5. Number 5 is Dude Brule, and Dude Brule is a Drogbar that wanders around the Stone Dark Grotto in High Mountain with his right fist up, and adventurers can fist bump him to receive the 1-hour fist bump buff, the description of which reads, fist bumped a Brule. Nice. This is like the good kind of weird, right? Like Silvermoon Harry was the bad kind of weird, but this guy is the good kind of weird. He just walks around trying to fist bump everybody. He's trying to improve that morale. Like, this guy should have his own achievement. You know what I mean? Like, this should be an achievement of go fist bump Dude Brule, because this is like a necessary task that every World of Warcraft player should do. And I really do love the fact that this is just his entire existence. He just wants to walk around, just fist bump some people, improve the morale, and just make everybody happier. It's like, yo, what's up, man? Fist bump, right? Like, I feel like Dude Brule is the type of guy that would love to be a greeter at Walmart, you know? Like, he gets older. He doesn't really care about making money or do anything. He just wants to make people happy, right? You walk in, he's like, yo, what's up, man? Fist bump. Like, that's the vibe I get from him. And so, even though he's weird, he's a good kind of weird. And that's why Dude Brule is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Zenkiki, and Zenkiki is a troll druid that's an initiate of the Cenarian Circle, and you receive a quest to go help him essentially learn how to become a druid and how to like play his class, right? So you take him out into the wild to kill some plagued animals, and he is really struggling. He turns into cat form and he just starts leaping all over and roaring and meowing and hitting everything but the enemy. And then he turns into a bear and he's unsure if he's even hitting the target. And then he turns into his aquatic form and he's stuck on his back and he needs you to help push him over. But I think my favorite one is when he goes into boomkin form and he just spam moonfires himself. And it genuinely made me laugh out loud because I was like, what is going on? So you might be thinking, okay, well, this guy's just some dumb troll druid, just like the hunter we saw in Vaz'jir, right? But Zenkiki's actually done a lot. He helped defend Sethria's roost on Mount Hyjal against the minions of Ragnaros. He was sent as an investigator of the primals by the Cenarian Circle, although he said he had trouble getting his flight form to work. He appeared in the Dream Grove when Malfurion named a new Archdruid, although when everybody celebrated by turning into bears, cats, moonkins, or flight forms, he transformed into a lion seal. But then he becomes an assistant to the Archdruid in order to learn, and in BFA, he was part of the dual Cenarian Circle Earthen Ring forces, aiding Magni Bronzebeard to heal Silithus from the wounds champion. And in Dragonflight, he joined the Dragonscale expedition and traveled to the Shady Sanctuary in the Onaran Plains of the Dragon Isles, where he can be seen speaking with Thistlee Crow. And so even though he's a weird NPC, he's made quite the journey and quite the progress, and that's why he's number 4. 3. Number 3 is Phil Gresham, and he's a vendor in Borealis that sells shoes, but he also will shine your shoes, and he just really creeps me out. I'm not gonna lie. So one thing I thought was that he had really tiny feet, and I was like, that's really weird. Like, he sells shoes, he shines shoes, but he has these really tiny feet or tiny boots. But it turns out, I think his feet are just clipped into the ground, because when I look up actual pictures of him, it looks like he has normal sized feet. And then when you talk to him, he just sounds completely wasted. He's just like, oh, bits and bobs is all right? It's just, I couldn't understand what he was saying. And I mean, in the grand scheme of things, he really just kind of creeps me out. I contemplated putting him higher up on the list because I'm like, he's not as weird as some of these other people, but like the vibe he gives off is just this really weird vibe. So it's a bit of an unconventional one, but I still wanted to put him on the list. And because of how weird he is to me, I put him at number 3. 2. Number 2 is Grifta, and Grifta is actually one of the most reoccurring NPCs in the entire game, appearing in every expansion except for Wrath of the Lich King. And Grifta is pretty much a scam artist that just is constantly trying to screw people over. According to Wowpedia, Grifta was initially located in the lower city markets of Shattrath, trying to sell his wares to unsuspecting bypassers, and early on he was standing next to Peacekeeper Jadar, who often contradicted and questioned Grifta's claims about his wares, leading to amusing conversations. But for a short time, Grifta was exiled from the city due to the endless reports of his shady business practices. However, when Zul'Aman was rediscovered, Grifta was let back into Shattrath. In Cataclysm, Grifta started selling his stuff at the Darkmoon Faire. In Pandaria, he was at the Grummel Bazaar and Kunlai Summit. In Draenor, he actually traveled to Draenor and sold some of his useless junk to garrison troops in Talador, and there's a standing order to rough him up a bit in order to get a refund. In Legion, he's in the Hall of Shadows, which is the Rogue Order Hall. In BFA, he travels to Dazar Alor in Zuldazar, where he sells his wares on the port of Zandalar. Somehow, he then made it into Shadowlands, where he's in the Broker's Den of Oribos, and in Dragonflight, he is found selling his amulets and other goods on the sly at the Obsidian Throne in the Waking Shores. So Grifta is easily one of the most notorious weird NPCs in World of Warcraft, and because of that, I had to put him at number 2. 1. And number 1 is Bud Nedrek, which is obviously a play on words for redneck. And in Burning Crusade, he was the well-spoken, often snooty explorer that Grifta sent players to just outside Zul'Aman. Grifta's note was short and to the point. It said, "Listen up, bud. This be the last fool I send till ya pay me all ya be owing. No more stalling." So he owed Grifta a bunch of money, apparently. And so the main thing is Bud is looking for treasure, and he knows Zul'Aman probably has a bunch of treasure in it, and so he pretty much wants the players to go into Zul'Aman and do all the dirty work for him. Then, in Wrath of the Lich King, Bud and his band of treasure seekers and troll slayers have moved on to Grizzly Hills in search of new prophets, but his fate at Zul'Aman had an unfortunate side effect, which is Bud pretty much lost his mind and thought he was a troll complete with a troll mask. His band of cohorts, not wanting to leave Bud behind, use him as troll bait by using his fragile state of mind to sick him on the local trolls of the area. Bud thought he's playing troll tag, but mostly what he was doing was knocking trolls silly with a frying pan, all while happily shouting "tag" to any he happened to hit. And then you think he's done after he thinks he's a troll and he's gone crazy, but he actually makes an appearance in Cataclysm, where his ship gets sunk in Vaz'jir at the opening sequence for that zone. He also appears in the Thistle Shrub Valley of Tanaris near the entrance of Uldum along with Adara, and Bud and the others were planning to drive a caravan into Uldum to search for artifacts, but they get ambushed by some pygmy, and Bud actually concocts a crazy plan to get the team and a Ramkahen prince out of Tolvir City, which actually works. And that's pretty much the story of Bud Nedrek. He also appears in your garrison for a little bit, whatever. But he's just a really weird NPC that has this crazy backstory, right? Like he's in Burning Crusade. He's got a note from Grifta to repay his debt, but he becomes this big thing in Zulaman where he's hunting treasure. And then he's in Wrath of the Lich King hitting trolls. He thinks he's a troll. Then he's like saving everybody in Cataclysm. Like, it's so weird. And I really do think he's like one of the most notorious weird NPCs in World of Warcraft. And for that reason, he's number 1. 10. Number 10 is Pollock Swiftsnip, and Pollock Swiftsnip is a barber located in Area 52 in Netherstorm. And I don't know if his name is actually Pulick or Pollock or however you say it, but his last name is Swiftsnip, so obviously that fits being a barber, but it is kind of weird that he's a barber in Area 52 in Netherstorm of all places. Like, I don't know if you've seen Area 52 in Netherstorm, I would imagine you have, but it does not look like the type of place where I would go, you know, this seems like a great spot to set up shop. I think a lot of people need haircuts here. And when you talk to him, he says, "Welcome, friend, to the barber shop. Come for a cut, a coloring, something else perhaps? We can groom facial hair, perform piercings, ink night elf tattoos, and even reshape Draenei horns and tendrils. Have a seat and we'll get right to work. You're only a few coins away from a new, more attractive you." And so yeah, he seems like an alright guy, and he's got a bunch of decorations all over that are pretty cool. It seems like his barbershop's doing alright, because it's been open for over 20 years, so I mean, what do I know? Maybe he's doing great. But either way, that's why Pollock Swiftsnip is number 10. 9. Number 9 are Smitty Hammerhead and Pop Soda Slam, located at the Hard Wrench Hideaway in Stranglethorn Vale. And so Smitty Hammerhead is a blacksmithing supplies vendor, and he's just hammering away on this anvil, which obviously is very fitting. His name is Smitty Hammerhead, but it is interesting that he's not an actual blacksmith trainer. He's just a blacksmithing supply vendor, right? So he's not teaching anybody. He's just like, listen, I'm doing my thing, and if you want to buy some blacksmithing supplies from me, I'll give you some. And then we have Pop Soda Slam, who is the food and drink vendor, and I love this name, right? It's got pop, it's got soda, it's like he's slamming them down, right? He can't stop drinking soda. But the problem here is that he doesn't sell any soda, and that actually upset me more than it should. Like, you're telling me that a guy named Pop Soda Slam can't sell like one thing of soda, or like Kaja Cola like the goblins have or whatever? He sells cups of frog venom. Like, come on, man. Although, you know what? Maybe he hates soda. Maybe he hates the fact that his name is Pop Soda Slam, and everyone's like, you don't sell soda? Your name's Pop Soda Slam. And he's just like, I hate soda. I wish I was never named Pop Soda Slam, and I'll never sell soda. At least that would be like some, you know, lore specific reason, but that's why I didn't put him higher up on the list. But either way, that's why Smitty Hammerhead and Pop Soda Slam are number 9. 8. Number 8 is Donald Dealright, and Donald Dealright is a human trade goods vendor located at the Thaldera Overlook in the Stone Talon Mountains. And as you can imagine from somebody named Dealright, he has a variety of items that he tries to sell to you that are just kind of like general good vendor items. But what's interesting to me about him is his clothing choice, right? He's wearing a wizard hat, he has on like a purple shirt, and then he's holding a sack or a bag of something that has like it's like either leaking or it has like fumes coming from it. I don't know what is in that sack, man, but I don't think I want to know. But either way, I mean, he's a very odd vendor, right? Like, he's just selling general goods in the Stone Talon Mountains dressed up like this. I don't know if he's a reference to something. I don't think he is, but I would love if they added in an NPC named Ronald Deal Wrong, and he's wearing like the same stuff, but it's all green. And then he just has a bunch of items he's selling that are the exact same items, but they all cost like 10 times more, and it's like, oh, this guy has the worst deals. We got to go to Donald Dealright, man. I think that'd be a really good goof. But either way, that's why Donald Dealright is number 8. 7. Number 7 is a bunch of dwarves located at Thelzamar, and so we have Innkeeper Hearthstove, Vidra Hearthstove, Lena Hearthstove, and Honey Golden Oat. And so the Hearthstove family appears to be the ones that run the Stout Lager Inn here in Thelzamar in Lochbodan. And you have Vidra Hearthstove, who is behind the counter of the inn. You have Lena Hearthstove, who is the stable master, and then you have Innkeeper Hearthstove, who is, well, he's the innkeeper. I like to think that his actual name is Innkeeper Hearthstove. They're just like, dude, this is Innkeeper Hearthstove. And they're like, oh, what's your first name? And he's like, Innkeeper. And they're like, oh, that's interesting, right? Like he definitely was suited to become an innkeeper with that name. And speaking of fitting names, we have Honey Goldenote, and she is the dwarven bread vendor here in the Stout Lager Inn, and that's another one where clearly she was meant to be a dwarven bread vendor. Like, could you imagine if Honey Goldenote was a blacksmith or something, and you're like, wow, that's a weird thing for Honey Goldenote, but really, there's nothing stopping her from being a blacksmith or something, right? Same reason Pop Soda Slam doesn't sell soda. He was like, I'm not doing this. And so yeah, I just really like all the hearth stoves and Innkeeper hearth stove and Honey Goldenote, and that's why I put them at number 7. 6. Number 6 is Millie Brewtap and Gina Got Goods, located in the Badlands. And Millie Brewtap is carrying 2 mugs, and she's just standing in this goblin hut with a bunch of engineering parts all around. Like, if you walked in here, you wouldn't be like, oh yeah, this is a bar where they serve alcohol. But, you know, I guess if you're a goblin, you gotta make do with what you got, right? And so she's just handing out alcohol. She sells a bunch of different alcohol, like banana cocktail, bottle of Dalaran Noir, bottle of Silver Moon Port, Hearthglen Ambrosia, imported EK Ale. She's actually got a nice variety of alcohol, to be honest. You would think, being in the Badlands, she would just be selling the jug of Badlands bourbon and like maybe the Hearthglen Ambrosia or something, and that's it. Actually, you know what? Maybe the flask of bitter cactus cider. That could probably fit in here as well. And then we also have Gina Got Goods, and she is the general goods vendor, and as it happens, she does indeed have general goods. And so yeah, I thought these two would fit pretty well on the list, and they're pretty close by, so I decided to lump them together, so that's why Gina Got Goods and Millie Brewtap are number 6. 5. Number 5 is Frozo the Renowned, and Frozo the Renowned is a gnome on a flying carpet outside the Forge of Fate in Northrend Dalaran. And so Frozo was added in patch 3.3.3, and he was added so that you could trade your frozen orbs to him, and you could acquire things like Runed Orbs, Crusader Orbs, Eternal Life, Shadow, Fire, Water, Air, and Earth, Frozen Lotus, and a pattern for a frosty flying carpet for tailors. It also says he might be a reference to Bozo the Clown, which I could see because it's like Bozo and Frozo, and he does have very similar hair to Bozo the Clown, so it's very possible. But again, I do think it's always funny when these characters have such fine-tuned names to what they do, right? He's like Frozo, he's got all the frozen orbs, he's wearing all this frost armor, he's like a mage, like a frost mage, right? And yet, what if he wanted to go do something else? What if he was like, man, I really wish I could just go like work in the Firelands. They're like, you can't do that, Frozo. It's like against your name, right? Although, you know what? I bet Blizzard would allow him to pay for a name change. He would have to like buy a WoW token, and they'd be like, all right, you're allowed to name change Frozo. And then people would be like, where'd Frozo go? They'd be like, yeah, he paid for a name change. He's in the Firelands now. Now he's Firezo. Either way, that's why Frozo is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Granny Smith, and Granny Smith is the fruit vendor located in Shatrath. And oddly enough, Granny Smith does not sell any Granny Smith apples, which are the green apples. She only sells shiny red apples, golden bark apples, plantains, berries, and grapes. But obviously, I would say most people know Granny Smith because of Crow Threadstrong, the orc who just constantly yells at Granny Smith, and he's just like, fruit vendor, move your cart, or, ha, I crushed an apple, fruit vendor. Now your apples will be sold to others for them to crush as well as various other insults that he yells day and night. But then Granny Smith is always like, is someone saying something? I can't hear you. Fruit? You wanted fruit? And she'll just be like, I can't hear him. So it's pretty funny. The other funny thing is right next to her is this big ogre named Grok, which back in the day, you know, obviously was just like an ogre name. But now it's the Twitter bot. So you just are like, Grok, is this true? Grok, why is that orc yelling at her? Grok, is my brain rotting? But yeah, Granny Smith is definitely one of the most well-known NPCs that's named after their job. And so that's why Granny Smith is number 4. 3. Number 3 is Drunk Drophammer, Skinner Selma, and Bullet's Big Blast, located at Bog Paddle in the Swamp of Sorrows. And so Drunk Drophammer is a fantastic blacksmithing name. He's wearing like a mining hat, he's got a hammer, he's standing by this anvil, and he'll just go and hammer away at the anvil every once in a while, which, you know, obviously ties into the Drophammer name. He also just sells a variety of blacksmithing things like mining pick, blacksmith hammer, weak flux, coal, etc. Then we have Skinner Selma, who's wearing an eye patch with a happy face on it, which is kind of weird. Although she is holding a skinning knife, so that does tie into her name. And she sells a variety of leatherworking supplies. And then we have the best one here, which is Bullet's Big Blast. And he is wearing some like x-ray goggles or something, and he just keeps tinkering with a bunch of different stuff, and then it just will randomly explode. And I just think out of all the names, that is one of the funniest ones, being named Big Blast and walking around and just constantly getting blasted by these explosions. And so yeah, I think without Bullets Big Blast, they are probably number 8 or 9 on the list, but with Bullets Big Blast, they get moved all the way up to number 3. Number 2 is Noodles, and Noodles is a cooking supplies vendor located at the Half Hill Market in the Valley of the Four Winds. And there's a lot to like about Noodles. He's a hosen, he's wearing a chef's hat, he's named Noodles, but one bad thing is that he's not actually selling any noodles. So he's selling mild spices, he's got refreshing spring water, he's got simple flour, perfect preservatives, a couple of recipes for sagefish, but no noodles. And so you might say, Crendor, well, why is he so high up on the list? Well, I think it's because he's actually cooking the noodles. So it looks like there's this big pot nearby, and it seems like there are noodles in this pot. And then every once in a while, Noodles will take a noodle out of the pot and just like taste it or look at it. And, you know, you can't actually see the noodle in his hands, but I'm pretty sure that's what he's supposed to be doing, and it would tie into his name. And that's actually one of the reasons I ranked him so high, because if I was the person designing noodles, I feel like that's something I would do. You know what I mean? It's like, oh man, I could design a noodle coming out of the pot. He'd have to pick it up and take it. Where would the noodle go? I'm like, he's just going to pretend to eat noodles. It's good enough. And really, that's very fitting for Pointless Top 10. And so that's why Noodles is number 2. And number 1 are Mulch, Death Drip, and Corpse Dust, located at the Ebon Watch in Zuldrak. And out of all 3 of these, I think Mulch is actually my favorite. He is the herbalism vendor, and he just sells an herb pouch and crystal vials, but I just love that he's named Mulch. I just think it's funny. And then we have Death Drip, who's a poison vendor, but they no longer need poison vendors, so he just sells a simple dagger now, so they really just removed his entire purpose. And speaking of removing a purpose, we also have Corpse Dust, who is a ghoul reagent vendor that used to sell corpse dust, which was used by Death Knights as a reagent to summon a ghoul without having to use a human corpse. But corpse dust as a reagent was removed in, I believe, Cataclysm, or some other expansion soon after. Yeah, I just really like these guys. It's not very often you get ghouls and geists that are named after their professions, but then they remove their professions, so I feel kind of bad for them, because I feel like they were pretty excited to have their professions, and now they don't even really have them anymore, aside from maybe Mulch. But either way, I want to give them some credit, because I really like these guys, and so that's why Mulch, Death Drip, and Corpse Dust are number 1. Number 10 is Leyrana, the half-melted dryad, and she is located at the Lost Light Grotto in Valshara. And so pretty much the owl beasts have gone crazy. They're disconnected from Elune, and Leyrana is like, you gotta go help the other dryads before they pretty much get melted by these owl beasts. And then after you save them, you have to power up Leyrana's Dreamcatcher, which allows you to break the owl beast barrier and gain access to Keeper Remulos and help save him. But by the end of all this, Leyrana has been melted down into just this puddle of goopy jelly or whatever she is at this point. She's dead. It's also kind of funny because they didn't change her voice lines to be like, I'm melting. She's still like, the great outdoors, as she's like half melted. So it's weird. It's unsettling. And I think it's a quest that a lot of people have forgotten about. And so for this top 10, I really wanted to find some stuff that aren't in many other top 10s, because a lot of other top 10s at this point with creepy stuff in them are repetitive. It's just a bunch of stuff from back in the day. But I was like, you know what? We need some more modern creepy stuff in these top 10 lists. You know what I mean? And so I think this is very fitting for it. And that's why Leyrana is number 10. Number 9 is this painting located at the Barrow Knoll Cemetery in eastern Drustvar. And apparently the spirits of the dead lurk around these grounds, and the cemetery is crawling with grave bloom, which is an herb that grants the living the ability to see spirits. But that's not what brought me here. What brought me here was this painting. And if you look at this painting, it just looks like some guy that sailed the 7 seas or a pirate guy or whatever. But if you wait long enough, his face starts to turn into a skeleton face. And I tried to find information about it. I don't know who this is. I don't know why they have a thing here. I think it's just some random guy for a random painting. In fact, I'm pretty sure that there is another area in Borealis where you can find this exact same painting. I know because I saw it in like a random video or something, but I couldn't like pinpoint where it was. So there are multiples of this painting. This isn't like the only one in the game, but it's still pretty freaky. And I think it's more fitting in a place like this. So that's why I put it number 9. Number 8 is the Path of Glory in the Hellfire Peninsula. And the Path of Glory is the road that leads from the foot of the Stairs of Destiny to the Hellfire Citadel. And if you take a closer look at the road, it's actually not just a normal road. It is completely made up of trampled Draenei bones, which is really freaky once you realize that. And so the orcs killed about 90% of the Draenei race here, and the ruins of the towns and temples of the Draenei can be found in various parts throughout Outland, but it's really insane to think about, because I remember I've walked back and forth on this road all the time, and you're like, oh, you know, there's some skeletons on the road or whatever, and you don't really piece it together until you know the full story. And now every time you walk on this road, you're like, this is insane. You know what I mean? Like, it truly is. And Varrock Sourfang, in fact, considered the road one of the Horde's greatest shames. And so for all those reasons, that's why I had to put the Path of Glory at number 8. 7. Number 7 is the World of Warcraft Wicker Man. And there's actually a few Wicker Men in World of Warcraft, but if you don't know, a Wicker Man was a large wicker statue in which the druids sacrificed humans and animals by burning, and the actual main evidence for the Wicker Man stems from Julius Caesar in his commentary on the Gallic War. And so when you first come across this Wicker Man cult in Drustvar, it's kind of freaky. Like, they're all standing around kind of worshiping it, and you're like, okay, this is kind of freaky, but the quest line actually gets kind of goofy. So it starts out with these two parents that have lost their son Edwin, and they're like, I think those Wicker Men cultists took him. And so you go and find Lord Autumnvale, who's like the leader of the Wicker Man cult, and he's like, listen, those people sent you. I told you, if you wish to know his whereabouts, you got to prove that you do. So you have to go find some offerings and bring the offerings to the Wicker Man. And so you bring him the offerings, and you bring him like fruit, and they're like, nah, he doesn't like fruit. What are you thinking? And then they're like, herbs? These aren't ritual herbs, these are cooking herbs. And then you finally bring him bones. They're like, oh yeah, he likes bones. And so he's like, okay, Edwin, yeah, he came to us and he was looking for the blessings of the Wicker Man, but while he was looking for offerings, he got attacked by bees and I don't know where he went. And so then you go looking for him and you find him in a cave and he's like, not the bees, not the bees. And so obviously this is a reference to the Nick Cage Wicker Man movie where his name is Ed in the movie, and then he's like, not the bees. And so you help fight off the bees. Edwin escapes, but then he gets recaptured by the Wicker Man cult for a blood sacrifice, and so you have to help fight off all of the Wicker Man cult and finally free Ed and burn the Wicker Man, and that's the end of the quest. And so what really started out as a thing I thought was going to be really creepy turned into a thing that was kind of goofy, but I decided to include it because I just thought it was fun anyway, and it's still a little creepy, so that's why the Wicker Man, number 7. 6. Number 6 is the baby harpy, and there's a lot of theories surrounding the baby harpy because at first you find this in the Exile's Reach up on one of the big wooden posts, and you're like, oh, it's just a baby harpy, it's in an egg, right? But then you look a little more into it, and it appears that harpies are pretty well known for stealing babies and children. In fact, someone brings up that there's a mage quest in Legion where you chat up Aether Sunreaver's apprentice, and you ask her, where did you meet him? And she tells a story about saving him from being kidnapped by a harpy and a banshee that were fighting over him. And on top of that, harpies stem from Greek mythology, where they were considered to be soul snatchers and are said to have done the work of Hades and stealing both children and the souls of other people, carrying them to the underworld. I mean, it is also possible that it is just some random Easter egg. I mean, quite literally an Easter egg to something, and I have no idea what it is, but if you know, or have some sort of theory, put it in the comments section below. I'd love to hear it. And that's why the harpy baby is number 6. 5. Number 5 is Teresa the Mind Slave, as well as the entire area of the Undercity's Apothecarium. And Teresa is an experiment of Gerard Abernathy, who removed parts of her brain and stimulated other parts, and is pretty much his human pet. And according to the WoW wiki, her name and blindfolded appearance may be a reference to Teresa from the game Fable. And so he pretty much has her do a bunch of errands and deliveries, and he shows her to his friends, and his friends are like, wow, that's unbelievable. I wish I had a human pet. Meanwhile, in the actual apothecarium, there's a bunch of experiments going on. There's a bunch of abominations hanging from the ceiling. There's abomination heads where you can see their eyes like moving all over, which is kind of freaky. There's a bunch of caged up humans and dwarves, and there's like a dead orc in a cage. Like, I feel like these are the types of things where you just normally are questing and walking around and you're like, ah, that's weird, and you keep going. But then when you stop and really analyze it, you're like, this is pretty messed up. You know what I mean? So that's why Teresa the Mind Slave and the Apothecarium are number 5. 4. Number 4 are the Nathivore tribe of blood trolls located in Nazmir. And not only do these trolls look kind of creepy, but this tribe is known for its heavy ritualistic practice of cannibalism. The women of the tribe actually eat the males and anything they capture, believing that the practice grants them greater power, and in addition to eating their own tribe and captured individuals, the tribe sacrifices some of the unfortunate souls to serve as food for the monstrous maw fiends they train and raise to aid the tribe in combat. And it's really just one of those places that's more creepy unsettling than it is like creepy scary. You know how there's plenty of things where you're like, that's just scary, but this is more of that unsettling vibe where you have like trolls in jars, you have like weird looking architecture, you have trolls just eating people around here. Like, it's very odd, and it's kind of crazy that this was in World of Warcraft, you know what I mean? In fact, the entire zone of Nazmir has some pretty creepy stuff in it if you go back and walk around, but I would say the Nathivore tribe is one of the creepiest, so that's why they're number 4. Number 3 are the Horde captives located in Boralis, and specifically Captive Tanra and Captive Tadam, I think, are the creepiest ones. So Captive Tanra is a female Tauren that is being literally water tortured. You know, it's not every day you see water torture in World of Warcraft, but here it is. She's just chained up and water's dripping on her as she's crying. And then there's Captive Tadam, who is being used for target practice as they throw a bunch of knives and shoot crossbows all around him. The other two are just like cooking and doing laundry, which seems way better than whatever, you know, Tadam and Tanra are going through, but it's all pretty bad. And this is all part of the quest Sky Drop Rescue, where Nathanos Blightcaller has you go and free the soldiers of the Horde and bring them back to the extraction point and set them free. So that's why they're here, but it's still pretty messed up, and that's why it's number 3. Number 2 are 2 locations located on top of mountains in the Blasted Lands. So the first one is a bunch of skeletons sitting around this floating crystal, and they're all holding these jars, so I imagine they were trying to do some sort of ritual, and then it backfired, and they all died, or something bad happened, but whatever it wasn't good. And then the other one is on a different mountain, and there's a summoning circle there, and it looks like a bunch of these soldiers are just solidified in the position that they died in. And it's really odd, especially when you go up to their faces and see it up close. It's like, it's pretty freaky. And I don't know, this might be a reference to the ruins of Pompeii, which that was the thing where the volcano erupted, and then everything got buried under a thick carpet of volcanic ash, and it kind of preserved everything. And so people were just like stuck in the position they died into the volcano. If you go look it up, it's also pretty weird. But yeah, the Blasted Lands has 2 different summoning rituals gone wrong on 2 different mountains. And so I was like, you know what? Let's put it at number 2. And number 1 are the Forgotten Crypts of Karazhan, specifically the Upside Down Sinners. And I know that I mentioned earlier that I try to avoid things that have been on other creepy lists in the past and stuff like that, right? But I feel like this area, specifically the Underwater Sinner area, is like truly insane. Like, it's one of the craziest things in World of Warcraft. These like dead underwater chained up bodies just hidden away in this vacant large area that you have to explore under Karazhan to find. It's just, this is not something that you would ever really expect to ever find in World of Warcraft. And a lot of people had a bunch of theories about the crypts, why they were here, why they were never finished, but in a 2018 AMA, John Stats, who I fished with in a Fishing with Crendor, stated that the crypts were meant to be a questing area, but it turned out they were never needed, and so they were never finished, and that was pretty much it. But I would say this is one of the most creepy, well-known areas in the game, and that's why it's number 1. And number 10 is Xanis Flameweaver, and Xanis Flameweaver is a Tauren shaman located on the Spirit Rise in Thunderbluff. And Xanis has been doing nothing for quite some time now because his purpose was actually removed back in Cataclysm. And so back in classic World of Warcraft, Xanis was the shaman that gave you your Call of Fire, Call of Water, and Call of Air quests to acquire your Fire Totem, Water Totem, and Air Totem. And so he'd send you to Prate Cloudseer, Easlin Waterseer, and Cranelfis, which honestly, that's got to be one of the worst names in World of Warcraft. But you know what? I should make a pointless top 10 worst names in World of Warcraft now that I think about it. And so yeah, back to Xanis Flameweaver. After they removed the totem quest, he pretty much just lost his purpose. And so he just used to be this wise shaman sitting by a pole, and now he's still a wise shaman sitting by a pole, but now nobody really knows. Like, if somebody started playing the game today, they'd be like, who's this guy? He just sits there. He doesn't have any quests, but little did they know, he used to. And that's why Xanis Flameweaver is number 10. 9. Number 9 is Brum Winterhoof, and Brum Winterhoof is a tar and leatherworking trainer located in the Arathi Highlands. And I always remember seeing him when I'd be in the Arathi Highlands for whatever reason, questing or what have you, and he would always just be by his campfire and he looked like he was having a chill time. And when you'd talk to him, he'd say, "The spirits told me you would come, that you would seek me for some reason, but that even you may not know that reason. So, do you know why you are here?" And it turned out that his big thing was elemental leatherworking. So if you were a leather worker, you could specialize in elemental leatherworking and he'd be the one that you went to. And so you'd go to become an elemental leather worker and he'd talk about how elemental leatherworking required patience and dedication and how you needed to have the elements actually accept you. But then the cataclysm hit, and in addition to destroying numerous parts of Azeroth, it also destroyed elemental leatherworking. And so this guy is now just a basic leatherworking trainer in the middle of Arathi Highlands. And you gotta feel bad for him, because like he loved elemental leatherworking. He was like, you need to get in tune with the elements, right? This is like about patience and dedication. This is like if he studied to become a neurologist or something, and then they just like sent them back to practice generalized medicine. I feel bad for him. Like he's just here, probably just depressed. And so yeah, he still kind of has a purpose, but not the one that he wants. And so that's why Brum Winterhoof is number 9. 8. Number 8 are the Blastbolt brothers, and the Blastbolt brothers are Bezel and Basil Blastbolt, located at the Argent Tournament in Icecrown. And when you talk to Bezel Blastbolt, he says, "No one builds it faster, cheaper, and better than the Blastbolt brothers." And these goblins were hired to help construct the Crusaders Coliseum in Icecrown, but after it was completed, they no longer had a job, and now they just hang out at this bar outside the Coliseum, getting drunk. And funnily enough, they both used to have daily quests back in Wrath of the Lich King when the Argent Tournament was more relevant. And one of them was to get 12 rough-hewn planks, and he would be like, "Go to Crystal Song Forest and just chop some trees down, because we need wood." And after you got all the wood, he was like, "Excellent planks, and a good price, too. Those Argent Crusade sticks in the mud will never know. They'll get their precious Coliseum, and I'll get my early completion bonus. Now that's a win-win." And the other was to get 15 small stone blocks, and he was like, "Getting stone for this has been a nightmare. There are tons of stones available from the ruins in safe places, but those holier-than-thou paladins won't go for it. Something about priceless artifacts." And so for the quest, he has you go and collect crumbling Titan ruins in the footsteps at the Inventor's Library in the Storm Peaks. And he's like, "Hey, just don't go blabbing to those Crusaders about where you got this from, all right? I'm sure they'll get upset, but hey, it's not like the Titans have come back for them." And so yeah, the Blastbolt brothers don't really have a purpose now, but out of all the NPCs on the list, I feel like they're having one of the best times without their purpose. They're just like drinking, being like, "Hey, you know what? We made money." And so that's why the Blastbolt brothers are number 8. 7. Number 7 is Renaz, and Renaz is a forest troll located in Reventusk Village in the Hinterlands. And so back before the Cataclysm, he actually appeared to be a jungle troll like you'd find in Stranglethorn, and he sold ammo. So he sold quivers and arrows, and that was his purpose. He was an ammo vendor. But then when the Cataclysm hit, they gutted him. In fact, the patch notes here say, "Model updated from jungle troll to that of a forest troll, no longer has ammunition vendor, and no longer sells ammo." So they changed what he looks like, they got rid of his purpose, and now he just stands here. I mean, come on, man. They even ruined his shoulder pad. Look at that. His old shoulder pad used to be cool. It was kind of like a Koopa shell. Like it had all the spikes on it, and it was just really neat. Now he's just got like some metal-ass piece of metal. And so yeah, I just feel bad for this guy, because like he used to just sell ammo. He probably enjoyed doing it. He's like, "Hey, I'm just having a good time," and then they completely gutted him, and now he just has no purpose. Like he just stands here and he doesn't even look as cool. So that's why Renaz is number 7. 6. Number 6 is Ember Strife, and Ember Strife is an ancient black drake located in a cave in the Wormbog in Dustwallow Marsh. And so he was the gatekeeper of Nefarian, and his whole purpose was pretty much to test whether you were worthy of ascending to the rank of Elite Guard to Onyxia. And obviously this was our way of going and fighting Onyxia, which was all part of the Onyxia attunement chain. And it was a bit different for the Horde and Alliance. So the Alliance would have to put an item on the floor. They would have to then fight Ember Strife and get him to low HP, and then mind control him and have him breathe fire on the item. Meanwhile, the Horde would just make a black dragon costume and talk to Ember Strife, and then he would just be like, "Go kill some dragons," and then he'd be like, go kill some more dragons. And that was pretty much it. And so yeah, obviously the Onyxia attunement chain got removed from the game, and now he's just a dragon in a cave, and that's really it. There's no purpose to him anymore. In fact, there's speculation that story-wise, it's possible that he's dead, but listen, it's Blizzard lore, so I have no idea. Either way, to me, he's just a dragon in a cave that lost his purpose, and so that's why Ember Strife is number 6. 5. Number 5 is Kita Arrowtusk, and Kita Arrowtusk is a jungle troll quest giver found at Senjin Village in Duratar, and he was at Razor Hill for a little bit. And so he was mainly relevant during the Battlefield Barons, which occurred in Mist of Pandaria, and he had 3 quests called the Darkspear Rebellion, Vol'jin of the Darkspear, and the Battlefield Barons, which was a weekly quest where you had to collect Kor'kron lumber, oil, meat, and stone. And so the Battlefield Barons, if you didn't know, is a world event that took place in the Barons, and it involved the conflict between Garrosh Hellscream and the Kor'kron, fighting against the rebellious forces of Vol'jin's Darkspear Rebellion. However, after patch 5.4, all of the related quests, quartermasters, and many of the NPCs were removed from the game, but Kita Arrowtusk remains in the game. And so yeah, he's just kind of here. He doesn't do anything. He just stands around. You would think he'd be of some sort of use. Like, this was one of the guys that was like communicating with Vol'jin, you know what I mean? Like, he was a higher up troll. I don't know, maybe he's really cool at seeing visions or doing voodoo stuff or something, but I guess we'll never know because he just stands around unless Blizzard decides to give him a purpose at some point. So that's why Kita Arrowtusk is number 5. 4. Number 4 is Aj Tordeen, and Aj Tordeen is a highborn night elf located at Laris Pavilion in Feralis. And so back in the day, he used to give a quest called Pusselin and the Elder Aj Tordeen, and he said, I had let my guard down for only one moment, stranger, and in my haste to escape the grip of the fallen prince, I was robbed. A most foul demon, the imp Pusselin, pilfered my book of incantations and the key to the once great halls of Eldra Thalas. I no longer hold interest in the key, as I have exchanged my immortality for freedom, but I desperately need my book of incantations. And so you would go and complete that quest, and he would give you the choice between spry boots and a sprinter's sword, as well as some gold and 500 rep with the Shendralar. Now, the big thing here is that the rep grind for the Shendralar rep was terrible. Like, you only had this quest, and then you could, like, turn in some tomes, like the tome that would give you the Royal Seal of Eldra Thalas trinket, and you needed various materials, like large brilliant shards or pristine black diamonds, and it was just terrible. And so in the Cataclysm, they removed the Shendralar faction from the game, and now Aj Tordeen just sits here with his hands like in his robe, or I don't know, they're like glitching through his robe, and he just looks bored and sad. So I actually feel real bad for him. Like, he used to have his purpose, now he just sits here doing nothing, I guess. And so that's why Aj Tordeen is number 4. 3. Number 3 is Rokaro, and Rokaro is a champion of the Horde located at Shadowprey Village in Desolus. And Rokaro is actually a really weird NPC. So he was pretty much put into the game to take Rexar's place for the Onyxia attunement chain, because Rexar had to go help with the invasion of Outland. But prior to that, Rexar used to walk around Desolus and you would have to go find him, and it was always really annoying because he would just wander all over the zone. But then after the Onyxia attunement chain was removed from the game, he lost his purpose, which was a purpose to replace someone else's purpose. It also says here that despite appearing as a rogue, Rokaro has warrior abilities like Cleave and Puncture, just like Rexar had. And so yeah, now he's just some orc that stands in Shadowprey Village in Desolus, and when you talk to him, he's just like, well met, I am Rokaro. Which also seems kind of crazy because this dude is literally a champion of the Horde. Like, that's in his name. Rokaro, champion of the Horde. You would think we would need more champions of the Horde to defend against literally any of the dangers attacking Azeroth. But what do I know? Either way, that's why Rokaro is number 3. 2. Number 2 is Komar Vallard, and Komar Vallard is a human found near the Thandal Span in the northern wetlands. And so this one's actually pretty messed up. So Komar is wandering the wetlands for any signs of his wife because she's gone missing, and he's just looking for any sign of her. Meanwhile, in the Undercity, you have the Forsaken Karendon Halgar and Godric Farsan, and they want to get the heart of a man of goodness and honor because they say that a succubus cannot be brought into our world without a stimulus. The succubus will be unable to resist the good, pure heart, and then you can dominate it and make it your own. And so yeah, this NPC's sole purpose is to wander around looking for his lost wife, and then for the Horde Warlocks to be like, yo, that guy's got a really loyal, pure heart. Let's go kill him so we can summon a succubus, and then you can have your succubus, and that's it. However, that quest was removed in the Cataclysm, so Komar Vallard doesn't have to die anymore for being a good person. He can just wander around the wetlands trying to find his wife, experiencing sadness, anxiety, and loneliness. So Great for him. And so, yeah, I put this guy really high up on the list because even though he lost his purpose was actually terrible. So now he doesn't have to get killed for his heart, but he still has to wander around the wetlands looking for his wife, experiencing like depression and sadness. So he's really in a lose-lose situation. And that's why Komar Villard is number 2. And number 1 is Orchaos the Insane. And Orchaos the Insane is a nether draconid patrolling a floating island on the southeastern edge of Netherwing Ledge in the Shadowmoon Valley. And so originally, Toranaku, the nether dragon, was supposed to give you a quest to kill Orchaos upon a player reaching Exalted with Netherwing in order for him or her to obtain a nether drake mount. But the idea was replaced with the quest Lord Illidan's Storm Rage, and so Orchaos was essentially deemed useless. And so I feel especially bad for this guy because he got promised so much, you know what I mean? They're like, you're gonna be the last step in this Exalted Netherwing Drake Mount quest thing, right? Like, people are gonna fight you to get their Netherwing Drake Mount, you're gonna be awesome. People are gonna look back on this and be like, man, remember when we had to fight Orchaos the Insane to get our Netherwing Drake Mounts? That was pretty crazy. He would just walk around twirling his hammer, waiting for somebody to fight. And then they were just like, actually, never mind. We'll do something else. It's like, come on, man, at least remove him from the game. That's probably why he went insane. You know, he had to stand on this island for years and years thinking he was part of an Exalted quest line, and he's actually just completely useless. In fact, he doesn't even drop loot. So either way, that's why Orchaos the Insane is number 1. 10. Number 10 is the art at the Darkmoon Faire. And the Artmoon Faire, the Artmoon Faire, the art at the Darkmoon Faire is really cool. Like, it has some old Renaissance style wall paintings. It's got the big King Kong gorilla man who's like eating a unicorn. It's got the actual Darkmoon Faire poster, which is pretty high definition quality, to be honest. They just put it on a tree for some reason as well. There's like, put it on that tree. But I mean, if you really like the sun and the moon there, you can really see it. It's just really unique. Like, it's not something you see anywhere else in the game, which I think is really cool. And obviously you can only go to the Darkmoon Faire, you know, a week out of the month, right? So there's only so many times you can go to the Darkmoon Faire and really appreciate everything here. There's the art seller or vendor. I don't remember what they are, but they got a bunch of art in the background, like really high quality paintings. Like, there's the undead hand rocking out over there. There's this guy getting blasted out of a cannon. Like, there really is some cool, unique art at the Darkmoon Faire, and it was just cool going around and appreciating a lot of the art that you just glance over when you're trying to, you know, get your tickets or prizes or do whatever you're doing here and get out. And that's why art is number 10. 9. Number 9 is the Darkmoon Faire roller coaster, which actually has more lore than I thought it would, to be honest. The Darkmoon Faire roller coaster is designed by these goblins that are arguing with each other about how it's going backwards. They're like, it's supposed to go the other way. And he's like, you kidding me? Oh my God, no, it's going the right way. And then she's like, no, I think it should go the other way. And he's like, no, there's no way. This is the way it goes. And then she's like, hey, maybe you should get Penny to help. And then he's like, Penny gave up on the family business forever ago. She's not gonna do anything. There's also a, I guess, beta tester of the roller coaster right there. You can see, didn't have a good time. Just, they never really cleaned up after that. They also got a little hideout back here where apparently they've just been, I don't know if they're drinking or whatever they're doing. There's a bunch of empty bottles, but somebody's back here doing something. Also, this is called the Gryvern roller coaster because you can either ride on the Griffin or the Wyvern. So, you know, you got options, and you get the Wii buff if you complete a ride, which is the rep and experience buff. So I am glad that they added the roller coaster to the Darkmoon Faire, and I'm glad they added that little bit of goblin lore as well. So that's why the roller coaster is number 9. 8. Number 8 is the Darkmoon Rabbit, and the Darkmoon Rabbit is a boss rabbit at the Darkmoon Island Cave on Darkmoon Island, and according to Wowpedia, it originally dropped 1 Darkmoon Rabbit per raid, but after Warlords of Draenor was released due to too many ninja loot raid leaders, combined with the rabbit's long spawn timer during a limited event, the loot rule was changed to personal loot only. If a player cannot loot the corpse, then that person did not have the pet drop for them. And the Darkmoon Rabbit is also a reference to the Killer Rabbit in Monty Python and the Holy Grail. And as you can probably tell, the rabbit was not up when the Darkmoon Faire was currently going on, and I did not see it, but there you go. Through the power of technology, I am able to show you the rabbit. There it is, truly. I mean, you probably didn't even know this was not in-game footage. That's crazy. So overall, it's just a fun reference, a fun limited time raid boss, and that's why the Darkmoon Rabbit is number 8. 7. Number 7 is the Cavern of Lament, and the Cavern of Lament is beneath the sunken ship off the eastern shore of the Darkmoon Island. and there are several Aaron-S there. I think that's how you say it. I have no idea. But they are Fell Blood Elves, and when you kill one of these Fell Blood Elves, they drop a Ring of Broken Promises. You can also see there's some crazy contraption over there. And the ring says, this item begins a quest. Deep gash marks indicate that whatever once wore this ring tried in vain to remove it. And the description says, a heavily scratched ring, faintly stained with blood. Someone at the Darkmoon Faire might be able to provide more information about this item. So you take it to Chester, who is this creepy looking man in a top hat, and apparently he might be a reference to a Dark Souls character named Marvelous Chester. But either way, you give him the ring and he says, ah, I see you found my lovelies. Beautiful, aren't they? It's a shame that the process drives them so insane. The ring is yours to keep, of course. Can you hear them whisper? Marvelous. So yeah, that shit's messed up. And that's why it's number 7. 6. Number 6 is kind of a combination between the shipwrecks and the Darkmoon Island itself. So if you look around the Darkmoon Island, there's a bunch of shipwrecks, which leads you to think, why are all these shipwrecks happening, right? It's a lot of shipwrecks. Once they get to the Darkmoon Island, it's just like bloop, and then they crash and nobody ends up getting here. It's a little freaky. But when you read into the Darkmoon Island and how it came about, because the Darkmoon Faire used to just be a thing that traveled around and showed up every once in a while, right? And then they got their own island in patch 4.3. So if you read the patch notes, it says, out with the old and in with the new. New quest, that is. Things have changed around here. We got an island all to ourselves now, and what an island it is. Mist-shrouded Darkmoon Island is a conundrum wrapped in an enigma. It's a place of mystery and wonder, and you wouldn't believe the deals we made to get it, or who we made them with. So that's a little interesting, right? There's also speculation of where it's actually located. Some people say they don't even think it's on the map, but when you're in the water, it says you're in the Great Sea. So I feel like you are in Azeroth. The most likely theory I read is it's below Northrend and above the Broken Isles, because a lot of the fish seem like Northrend fish, and then there's a Tuskar that'll show up every once in a while. So I was like, yeah, that seems plausible. But really, we don't know. I really do love the mystery of all this, and we're going to get a bit more into the mystery of all of it because it's pretty crazy. So that's why the Darkmoon Island and the shipwrecks are number 6. 5. Number 5 is the Darkmoon Faire Petting Zoo, and the petting zoo is run by Yeb Nebelgear, and he's a gnome that says, welcome, welcome to Yeb Nebelgear's Darkmoon Zoo Bazaar, a trove of living legends and mythical oddities. Enjoy your visit, friend, but be mindful of what you touch. These exhibits hold artifacts and beasts, both dire and divine. They might burn the wayward hand of an over-curious onlooker. There's quite a lot to see, so look, and perhaps one day even more will be revealed to you. Which, I don't know why he says that. That's adding more fuel to the fire of the mystery of this place, but it's got giraffes, it's got hydras, it's got lions, it's got elephants, it's got basilisks that have frozen some carny workers, it's got the big King Kong gorilla we saw in the art earlier. It's got a whole bunch of animals, but I think my favorite part of the petting zoo is this one area where people keep showing up and they're like, hey, are you the tour guide? Or like, where's the tour guide? Like, what is this? And they're essentially just part of the exhibit. And it just keeps rotating who is there. There's like Gorloks, there's an Arakoa guy, there's the Tuskar we were actually just talking about earlier. It's pretty funny and also a little messed up at the same time. But isn't that just the entire Darkmoon Faire at this point? But either way, it's fun to walk around the petting zoo, see some references, see some goofy stuff, and that's why it's number 5. 4. Number 4 is the latest addition to the Darkmoon Faire, which is the Warlock questline. And you talk to Assistant Phineas, and he's like, yo, get on this carriage, we're going. And he just books it straight to the Darkmoon Faire, and you're just like, what? And before you know it, there you are, you're at the Darkmoon Faire, but it's a little bit different this time around. There's not really many people here. In fact, everybody here is just a demon or some sort of warlock. There's actually this little imp guy, and he's shooting off fell fireworks, or his own version of fell fireworks, I guess. There's actually a guy waiting in line to use the outhouse, and he's like, are you saying I'm not supposed to be here? And then he's like, all right, I gotta get out of here. So he actually isn't supposed to be there, and he hearts out. There's a couple of kissing booths, just with a bunch of imps waiting to partake in the kissing booths. The carousel has also been turned into some sort of torture device where these cultists are all tied up, or, you know, magically tied up essentially. But yeah, this entire quest chain is pretty crazy. It pretty much just solidifies that the Darkmoon Faire is crazy, demonic, got some old god stuff going on, and I'm not going to spoil any Darkmoon Faire questline stuff if you haven't done it, but you should do it if you got a warlock. It's wild. So that's why the Darkmoon Faire quest line is number 4. 3. Number 3 is Silas Darkmoon, the little gnome that drives around in his rocket ship with his ogre bodyguard. And Silas Darkmoon has some very mysterious lore in his past, or I guess lack of lore. So there are numerous theories and kind of speculations about Silas Darkmoon. One of them is that he's very old, possibly older than 1,200 years old. A ghost who claims he met Silas when he was a child was from Strom. Strom doesn't exist, and it hasn't existed for over 1,200 years. Therefore, the child is more than 1,200 years old when he met Silas. The same person that mentions this also says that there's a missing old god. So there's rumors that Silas Darkmoon is actually the 5th old god, because there are many old god references all around here. Then there's also theories where he's actually a Twilight cultist. And a fun little fact, patch 4.3, when the Darkmoon Island was added in, was the Hour of Twilight. So that would also tie in a bit with the Twilight cultist theory. But Silas Darkmoon is either some sort of old god prophet, an old god, or just some guy that made a deal with the old gods. Like, I think it's one of those three. I really do. There's too many weird old god, dark theme references and everything around the Darkmoon Faire, but I actually don't really want to know. I don't mind if they get a little more into it and give us some more hints and clues, but I always loved that the old gods were a very mysterious thing. And I love the fact that this is also a very mysterious place, and Silas Darkmoon is mysterious in himself, right? The whole Faire is mysterious. I think a lot of times lore is the most fun when things are left unsaid, right? Think of how many times you wonder about something in a show or a movie, and then you actually find out what it is, and you're like, oh, I guess that's cool. Or like, I think what I thought of was better. You know what I mean? So I would like to know more about Silas Darkmoon, but I don't want to know too much. I don't want to know his whole story. But that's why Silas Darkmoon is number 3. 2. Number 2 are the ghosts that wander the Darkmoon Faire Island, and these probably give us some of the best insight to the Darkmoon Faire's past. The first ghost is Brendan Paulson, and this is one that we mentioned earlier about the kid that Silas Darkmoon met at Strom pretty much 1,200 years ago. And he talks about running away from home. His father tried to kill him. He hates his family. And so he goes to the Darkmoon Faire, and sadly he dies. But the theories are Rona Greenteeth killed a lot of these ghosts. Cythera was looking for firewood when she saw something in the bushes and then blacked out, so that could have been Rona Greenteeth. Then we have Zazla, who's a troll that talks about surviving the shipwreck. So apparently, you know, the shipwrecks we mentioned earlier, this guy was one of the people that was on one of those ships. And he potentially got killed by Rona Greenteeth as well. Then we have Arlen Sherhoof, who talks about watching over the camp and not leaving the camp over and over again. And then we had Cup Coincare, who is a goblin that talks about having a bunch of debt, and then he repays it by working at the fair, but after getting tired of working at the fair and attempting to leave, he dies. Rona Greenteeth actually doesn't sell any goblin meats, so it's possible he just died to the wildlife or something like starvation. And I mean, overall here, it's really weird. Like, there's a cannibal killing a bunch of people out here in the wilderness. There's like crazy werewolves and stuff out in the wild. Like, there's some weird shit in the forest, man. And so these ghosts are actually a really interesting part of the Darkmoon Faire lore that you can only see when you're dead. So that's why the ghosts are number 2. 1. And number 1 is probably the most prominent part of the Darkmoon Faire, the Eye. That's right, the Eye that is constantly browsing and looming over the Darkmoon Faire from various parts of the fair. Whether it's signs or balloons or artwork or whatever it might be. And out of all the clues, the Eye is the one that really makes people believe that this is an old god fair. But the biggest mystery for a lot of people was which of the old gods was it, right? We had Cthulhu and N'Zoth as some likely options, but it appears that Y'Shaarj is that old god. He's actually the one whose heart is restored by Garrosh Hellscream and then transported to Orgrimmar's Underhold. And when Y'Shaarj died, its last terrible breath manifested as the 7 Prime Shah, which was anger, hatred, violence, fear, doubt, despair, and pride. So one of the theories that I talked about earlier was that the Eye is made up of pure emotions, with this one being nothing else than the Shah of happiness. And even though this isn't canon Warcraft lore, in the comics, Silas Darkmoon is shown as an always smiling figure, feeling joy even when he buries a man alive without feeling any remorse. But we do have this official Blizzard Hearthstone art that shows Yashiraj controlling what looks to be a Faire. I would say out of all the lore that isn't canon, Hearthstone's probably going to be pretty close to what Blizzard's intending for. So no matter what it is, I think the eye is easily one of the most notorious parts of the Darkmoon Faire, and it's the thing that everybody notices when they go to the Darkmoon Faire. And that's why the eye is number one. Hey everybody, thanks for watching this pointless top 10 compilation video. If you want more compilations, there's 3 hours of creepy stuff in World of Warcraft or 3 hours of WoW animal facts. There's also numerous other ones, but I can only link you 2 of them right now. So thanks for watching, and I'll see you next time. Okay? Okay. See ya.